Before we dive into the deep end of history, do me a solid. If you're listening to this right now, wherever you are, smash that subscribe button. It's the best way to make sure you catch every single part of this story. Seriously, it helps more than you know. And hey, drop a comment. Tell me what time it is where you're at. I'm always curious about my night owl crew. Now get comfortable. Maybe pull your blanket up a little. Because we're not just talking about the Titanic tonight. We're going to live it. You think you know the Titanic story, right? The iceberg, the lifeboats, the band playing on. It's the same stuff in every movie. But let me tell you what they always leave out. The real heart of the ship wasn't up top with the millionaires. It was down below. 700 people boarded that ship in third class. Steerage. The cheap seats. And most of them thought they'd just won the lottery. This is what life was actually like for the people in the belly of the most famous ship that ever sank. This isn't a story about watching a disaster. This is a story about being in one. So settle in. We're going back to April of 1912. And you're not a spectator. Your name is Cillian Brennan. You're 19 years old. And you're about to walk onto a ship that cost more to build than your entire county back in Ireland. The little tender boat rocks like a toy under your feet as you stare up. And up. And up. You've seen big things before. You grew up in Cork by the harbor. You've seen ships come and go. But this thing floating in Queenstown Harbor isn't a ship. It's a floating city. It's a cathedral made of steel, lying on its side. It's every building in your village stacked on top of each other and then doubled. The Titanic. Even the name sounds like something from a fairy tale. Like something that shouldn't exist in the real world. In your world. The world of muddy potato fields and a leaky cottage roof and the sound of your mother's rosary beads clicking every evening. But here it is. Real as the salt spray hitting your face. Real as the 23 pounds sewn into the lining of your coat. Everything your family could scrape together. Real as the inspection card in your pocket that says you're healthy enough, clean enough, acceptable enough to board this marvel and sail to America. You've never been more than 30 miles from the townland where you were born. And in about 15 minutes, you're going to walk onto a ship that cost more than every farm in County Cork combined. The tender, they call it the America, carries about 120 of you. Mostly Irish, mostly young, mostly terrified in that specific way where you can't stop grinning. Because if you stop grinning, you might cry. And if you start crying, you might never stop. Your cousin Podrick stands beside you, gripping the railing so hard his knuckles are white. He's 2 years older, the sensible one, the one who planned this whole crazy trip. Right now, he looks like he might be sick over the side. Would you look at it? He breathes out. It's not really a question. You can't look anywhere else. The ship is a monster, painted a slick black along the hull, with a white superstructure rising above it like cliffs made of steel and glass. 4 massive funnels punch a hole in the sky. 3 of them are venting steam in lazy white plumes. The 4th, you'll learn later, is just for show. The designers thought it looked more impressive with 4. Everything about this ship is about looking impressive. That's the White Star Line's whole game. They don't compete on speed. Let Cunard have the bragging rights with the Mauretania and Lusitania. No, White Star competes on size, on luxury. They want you to feel like you're staying in the finest hotel in the world while you cross the ocean. Even in third class. Especially in third class, actually. Because here's the kicker, the thing they don't tell you in the fancy history books. The real money wasn't in first class. Sure, those millionaires paid a fortune for their suites, but there just weren't that many of them. The real profit, the engine of the whole business, came from the hundreds upon hundreds of immigrants packed into the lower decks. People like you. People paying £7 and a few shillings for a one-way ticket to a new life. That's about $900 in today's money. Not nothing. Your family scraped for 2 years to put that together. Your sister Mary sent money from Boston where she works as a maid. Your mother sold the good cow. Your father took every odd job he could find down at the cove, loading cargo. The same cargo that's probably sitting in the belly of this very ship. All of that so you could stand here on this wobbly little boat, staring up at the largest moving object ever created by human hands, and feel all at once like the luckiest guy alive and the smallest, most insignificant speck in the entire universe. The boarding process at Queenstown is pure chaos, organized into lines. You'd already been through the first inspection that morning at the shipping company's office. A doctor checked your scalp for lice, your eyes for disease, made you cough and walk. All because America didn't want you if you were sick. U.S. immigration laws were no joke. Bring a disease across the Atlantic, and you'd be turned right around at Ellis Island, sent back on the next ship. And the shipping company would have to foot the bill. So White Star did the filtering right here. Better to reject you in Ireland than pay for your round trip. You passed, of course. You're young, healthy, strong from years of farm work. The doctor barely glanced at you before stamping your papers. But now, as the tender pulls right up alongside the Titanic's massive black hull, there's another inspection. Ship's officers in crisp white uniforms stand at the gangway, checking tickets, checking cards, making sure the person boarding matches the name on their list. Your heart is hammering against your ribs, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because this is it. This is the moment. Once you walk through that doorway in the ship's side, you're really doing this. You're really leaving. Ireland will become a place behind you. Something you can only reach through letters and memories and the $42 it would cost to sail back. The line shuffles forward. Somewhere, someone is playing music. A piper named Eugene Daly, you'll learn later, playing Erin's Lament as a farewell to the old country. The tune floats over the water, mixing with the crying gulls and the chugging of the tender's engine and the deep, mechanical thrum of the Titanic herself. Then it's your turn. You hand over your ticket. The officer glances at it, at your inspection card, at you. Name, Cillian Brennan, sir. Destination, New York. Then Boston. My sister's there. He nods, stamps something, hands your papers back. He points to a doorway in the ship's side. 3rd class. Follow the corridor. Take the stairs down. A steward will show you to your berth. And just like that, you're walking into history. That gangway door is huge, built to be watertight. You notice the big metal locking mechanisms as you pass through, the kind that could seal this entrance against the whole ocean. Everything on this ship seems designed to keep the sea out, to deny the basic, terrifying fact that you're about to float in water deep enough to swallow mountains. Inside, the corridor is narrow but clean. White painted steel with some wood partitions. You're deep in the ship's belly now, down on what they call E-deck. And immediately you notice the thrumming. It's the engines. They're not even running full speed yet. The ship's still at anchor, but you can feel them in your bones. A constant vibration that says this thing is alive. That all those tons of steel have a heartbeat. A steward in a White Star Line uniform points you toward the back of the ship. Aft, he says. You're picking up the vocabulary already. Aft is back. Forward is front. Port is left. Starboard is right. The words feel strange, settling into your brain next to the Gaelic and English already living there. You pass a storage area. The potato room, the steward says. Stores for your meals. You barely hear him. You're too busy staring. This corridor is longer than any hallway you've ever seen. It seems to run the length of the whole ship. You'll discover they call it Scotland Road, a nickname borrowed from a famous street in Liverpool. It's wide enough for 2 people to pass, lined with doors on both sides. And it's busy. People everywhere, speaking languages you know and languages you don't. Irish, English, Swedish, something Slavic, something that sounds like Italian. Families with kids, young men like yourself, women clutching bags, looking just as overwhelmed as you feel. This is what third class is. Not the unwashed masses from the scare posters, not the huddled refugees from political cartoons. Just people, ordinary people. Some poor as church mice, having sold everything for this ticket. But others are tradespeople. Cobblers, carpenters, tailors. People with skills who just couldn't find enough work back home. People like your own who's a slater, a roofer, and a good one. But there's only so many roofs in County Cork. He would have come himself if he could have. Instead, he sent you and Padraig to scout the land, to get established, to send money home, and maybe someday to bring the whole family over. The steward leads you down a stairwell, then another. The ship is a maze, decks on decks, each one with a letter. You started on E, went down to F, and now you're heading toward the aft section where families and single women are berthed. Wait, you're not a family. You're not a single woman. You're a young man. Why are they putting you back here? Cabins full up forward. The steward explains when you ask. You and your cousin will be in with a family. The Brennans, it says here. He checks his list. Any relation? Not that I know of, you say. Brennan's a common name. Well, you'll have the upper bunks. Family's got the lowers. 2 children, I think. Try not to step on anyone in the night. He stops at a door. Cabin G45 or something like that. The numbers are already a blur. Here you are. Suppers at 5:30. Dining saloons on F deck. Forward. You'll hear the bugle call. And then he's gone. Off to deal with the next batch of wide-eyed immigrants. You're standing in the doorway of your home for the next 6 days. The cabin is small. That's the first thing. Maybe 10 feet long and 7 wide, with 2 sets of bunk beds built right into the walls. A small white ceramic wash basin sits in the corner with a little tank above it for water. Not running water, you realize. You'll have to fill that tank yourself if you want to wash up. The walls are white painted pine. The floor is a red linoleum, easy to clean. A single electric light bulb hangs from the ceiling. You've seen electric lights before in the big shops in Cork, but having one in your own room? That feels like pure luxury. The family sharing your cabin is already there. A woman in her 30s, looking worn but kind. 2 children, a boy about 8 and a girl maybe 5. The woman's husband is not there. She explains when she catches you looking. He's forward with the other men. They don't let families stay together if there's not enough room. Something about immigration laws, keeping the men separate in case anyone tries to sneak through without inspection. Her name is Margaret. Margaret Brennan. No relation as far as you can tell. She's from Limerick, heading to meet her brother in Chicago. Her husband, Daniel, is in a bunk forward, sharing a cabin with 5 strangers. It's only 6 days, she says, and you can tell she's said it to herself 100 times. We'll see him at meals and on deck. It's just for sleeping, but there's a worry in her eyes. Something that knows how wrong this feels, to board as a family and immediately be split to opposite ends of a floating city. The kids don't seem to mind. They're too amazed by everything. The electric light, the porthole, the way the whole room hums with the engine's heartbeat. You toss your bag onto an upper bunk. It's not much. A change of clothes. Some food for the journey, though they say meals are included. A photograph of your family that your mother pressed into your hand at the last second. A bottle of holy water she made you promise to keep safe. Padraig takes the other upper bunk. He's already pulling out his rosary, settling in for prayers. That's Padraig, always the devout one. You're supposed to be devout too, of course. Everyone is back home. But you've always been more interested in what's coming than what's already been said. What's coming is America. What's coming is New York Harbor and the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island. And then a train to Boston, where Mary will be waiting. What's coming is work. Hard work, probably. On the docks, in construction, wherever they'll take a young Irishman with strong arms and a willingness to do what needs doing. What's coming is a life. You lie back on your bunk. You feel the ship move beneath you. It's subtle. The Titanic is so massive that the small harbor waves barely touch her. But there's a gentle rocking, a rhythm, like being in a giant cradle. Like the whole Atlantic Ocean is rocking you toward your future. The walls are thin. You can hear everything. Coughing next door. A baby crying down the corridor. Footsteps on the deck above. That ever-present engine vibration that makes your bones hum. Back home, you shared a cottage with your whole family. Privacy wasn't a thing you expected. But this is different. Here, you're surrounded by strangers. People you'll never see again after New York. People all going through the exact same wild mix of terror and excitement. This leap into the complete unknown. A whistle blows somewhere above, long and loud. The ship shudders slightly. We're moving, Margaret says, quiet. And you are. You can feel it now. The slow, powerful turn of the great vessel. The engines waking up to full power. Through the porthole, you watch the Irish coast begin to slide past. Green hills, stone walls, the spire of a church in the distance. Queenstown, the cove as you've always called it. The last bit of Ireland you'll ever see. Maybe the last bit of the only world you've ever known. Someone in another cabin starts to sing. And Sean knows song, an old-style lament. The voice is high and clear and achingly beautiful. It floats through the thin walls, through the narrow corridors, through the whole vast, humming machinery of the ship. And just like that, you're crying. Not sobbing. Just silent tears running down into the thin pillow. Podrick is crying too. You can hear him trying to hide it in the bunk above. Margaret is holding her daughter close, her face buried in the little girl's hair. Everyone is crying in this cabin, probably in cabins all over the third-class sections. 700 people, and their collective heartbreak, floating away from everything they've ever loved. But you're smiling, too, because tomorrow you'll wake up in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, on the largest ship in the world, heading toward a future that could be absolutely anything. The holy water bottle presses against your chest where you've tucked it into your shirt. Your mother's voice echoes in your memory, the last thing she said before you boarded the tender. Don't forget where you come from, but don't be afraid of where you're going. The singing continues. The ship moves on. The sun is setting somewhere beyond your porthole, painting the water gold and rose and purple. This is the beginning. This is third class on the Titanic. And for all its cramped spaces and thin walls and being separated from the people you love, for all the vibration and noise and strange food you'll eat and the stranger faces you'll meet, this is also the most extraordinary thing that has ever happened to you. You have no idea what's coming. None of you do. But that's for later. Much later. Right now, you're 19 years old, and you're sailing to America, and the whole world is opening up in front of you like a flower finally seeing the sun. Right now, you're going to close your eyes and let the rocking of the ship carry you toward dreams of wide streets and tall buildings and your sister's face when she sees you at the station. Right now, you're going to sleep. You wake up to the sound of someone being sick. Not in your cabin, thank God, but close. Way too close. It's right through the thin wooden wall to your left. Close enough that you can hear every heave, every splash, every miserable groan. The poor soul sounds like they're trying to turn themselves inside out. Seasickness. You've heard of it, of course. Some people just can't handle the motion of a ship. Their bodies rebel against the constant rocking, the endless rise and fall that never quite stops, no matter how big the boat is. You're lucky. Your stomach feels fine. A bit hollow and hungry, maybe, but nothing's churning. Podrig, on the other hand, you look over at the other top bunk. He's gripping the edge like he's afraid he'll fall off if he lets go. His face has a definite green tinge. You all right? You ask, your voice rough with sleep. He shakes his head slowly, very slowly. Moving too fast seems to make it worse. I'll be grand. He manages, the words tight. Just need to find my sea legs. Sea legs, that's what they call it. The process of adjusting to life on a moving surface. Training your body to sway with the pitch and roll without even thinking about it. Some people find them in a few hours. Others take days. And some poor folks never find them at all, spending the whole crossing hunched over a bucket. Down below, the kids are already awake. Little William is telling his sister Mary some wild story about a dream he had. Horses made of clouds or something. Mary isn't impressed. She wants breakfast. Margaret is up and dressed, looking tired but like she's ready to face the day. Women on this ship, mothers especially, they don't have the luxury of lying in bed feeling sorry for themselves. There are kids to feed, clothes to sort, a whole day of keeping little ones entertained in a space smaller than a cow shed to look forward to. "Mornin'," she says when she sees you stirring. "Sleep well. You did, actually. Better than you expected." That constant engine vibration that seemed so strange last night has become almost soothing. Like a heartbeat. Like the ship is alive beneath you, carrying you along. "Not bad," you tell her. "Bit noisy, though." She laughs. It's not really a funny joke, but she laughs anyway, because what else can you do? The noise is something else. Even now, in what passes for morning quiet down here, you can hear everything. The family next door arguing about something. That same baby crying somewhere down the hall. Footsteps on the deck above. Crew members going about their business. The endless mechanical rhythm of the engines. And of course, the person still being sick through the wall. Now, in the dim light of the single electric bulb, you really look at your cabin. The walls are made of thin wood panels, you realize, and they don't go all the way to the ceiling. There's a gap at the top, maybe a foot or so, that opens right out into the corridor. The idea, you suppose, is ventilation, airflow. Down here in the belly of the ship, you'd suffocate without it. But it also means privacy is basically a joke. Every cough, every sneeze, every whispered conversation floats out through that gap and mixes with everyone else's. It's like living in one big room that's been divided up by curtains that don't quite close. Back home, you lived in a 2-room cottage with your parents and 3 siblings. Privacy wasn't exactly abundant there either, but at least the walls were stone. At least sounds didn't travel quite so free. Here, you might as well be sleeping in the same room as 100 strangers. Podrig makes a groaning sound. He makes it out of his bunk, moving carefully like someone walking on ice. "I need to use the toilet," he mumbles. "Where is it?" That's a good question. There isn't one in the cabin, obviously. Third class doesn't get private bathrooms. What third class gets is communal water closets. That's the fancy word for toilets, scattered along the corridors, shared by everyone in this section of the ship. And for bathing, 2 bathtubs. That's it. 2 bathtubs for all 700-odd third-class passengers. One for the men, one for the women. You want a bath? You sign up with a steward and take your turn. Maybe once during the whole crossing if you're lucky. But here's the thing, most people don't really care. Not because they're dirty or don't like being clean, but because in 1912, the idea of bathing every day is kind of strange for working folks. Once a week is normal. Once a month isn't unusual. There are even people who think bathing too often is bad for you, that it opens your pores to disease. So, 2 bathtubs for 700 people? That's fine. That's plenty. More than most of your fellow passengers would have had back home. The water closets, though, those you'll need. Podrick staggers off in search of one, following the signs posted in the corridor. They're in English, which is fine for you, but you've already noticed plenty of your shipmates don't speak it. Swedes, Finns, Italians, Syrians, people from places you've barely heard of. All crammed together in this floating maze, all trying to figure out how to navigate a ship bigger than most villages. While he's gone, you decide to wash up. The ceramic basin in the corner is white with a bluish tint. Above it, a tank you can fill from one of the taps in the hall. It's not running water in the way we think of it now. You have to go fetch the water and pour it in. But it works. You splash some on your face. It's cold, of course. No hot water for third class, not without a lot of trouble. The cold wakes you up, clears the last fog of sleep. In the small mirror above the basin, you study your face. You look the same as you did yesterday, the same as you did a week ago, but something's different. You can see it in your own eyes. You're not the same person who left Cork. You're already changing, already becoming whoever you're gonna be on the other side of this ocean. Margaret takes the kids to find breakfast. She invites you to come along, but you want to wait for Podrick. He's your cousin. You're in this together. You should stick together, at least for the important things, like meals. While you wait, you take a closer look at your surroundings. The cabin is clean, spotlessly clean. It looks almost clinical, like a hospital room. White walls, that red linoleum floor. Everything designed to be easy to wipe down, to disinfect. No fabric hangings where dust could collect. No carpets where dirt could hide. There's a reason for this. Disease. The shipping companies are terrified of it. One outbreak of measles or typhoid, or God forbid cholera, and the whole ship becomes a floating coffin. Sickness can rip through a crowded vessel in days, killing dozens, turning a profitable voyage into a nightmare. That's why they inspected you so carefully before you boarded. America doesn't want sick immigrants. The shipping company doesn't want dead passengers. So everything is designed to minimize the risk. Clean surfaces, separated classes. There's even a hospital ward on board somewhere, staffed by ship's doctors who can isolate anyone showing symptoms before it spreads. It's a sobering thought. You're trapped on this ship for 6 days with hundreds of strangers, any one of whom might be carrying something deadly without even knowing it. But then again, the same was true in your village. The same is true anywhere humans crowd together. At least here, they're trying to prevent it. At least here, everything is clean. Podrick returns, looking a little less green. The walk to the water closet and back seems to have helped. Or maybe the worst of it has passed. Either way, he's ready for breakfast. The two of you make your way through the corridor, following the flow of other passengers heading in the same direction. Scotland Road, they call this main passageway. It runs almost the whole length of the ship on E-deck. It's busy this morning. Packed, actually, because everyone's going to the same place. The dining saloon on F-deck, where breakfast is being served. You pass open cabin doors. Glimpses of people getting ready for their day. A young woman brushing her hair. An older man reading a prayer book. Kids bouncing on bunks while their mother tells them to stop before they break something. And you hear things. So many things. Conversations in languages you don't recognize. Babies fussing. Someone playing a harmonica, badly. That constant undercurrent of the engines, so present now you almost don't notice it anymore. The people around you, they're not what you expected. You knew there'd be immigrants, of course. That's what third class is. But somewhere in your head, you'd pictured one big, sad, homogeneous mass. Poor people. Desperate people. The reality is way more complicated. Yeah, there are people here who clearly have nothing. You can see it in their patched clothes, in their thin, worn faces, in the way they clutch their bundles like someone might steal them any second. But there are also people who look almost respectable. Men in pressed suits. Women in nice dresses with proper hats. Families who clearly aren't rich but aren't dirt poor either. People who had enough to book passage. People who could have afforded second class if they'd really wanted, but chose to save the money instead. Tradespeople, you realize, cobblers, carpenters, bakers, tailors, professionals who know their craft. They're not fleeing poverty so much as they're chasing opportunity. There's work in America, good work, better pay. So they've packed up their skills and their families and booked passage on the finest ship in the world. Because that's what the Titanic is, even down here. The finest. The White Star Line made sure of that. Third-class accommodations on the Titanic are better than second-class on most other ships. Private cabins instead of open dormitories. Meals included. Electric lights. Actual toilets instead of buckets. For many of the passengers, this is the most comfortable journey they've ever taken. More comfortable than their homes back in Europe. More comfortable than anything they're likely to have in America for the first few years. These 6 days at sea might actually be a vacation. The only vacation some of them will ever have. That thought sits weirdly in your chest. A vacation. You'd never considered it that way. But look around. Nobody has to work. 3 meals a day are provided. There are common rooms for hanging out. Open decks for fresh air. And absolutely nothing is required of you except to show up when the bugle sounds and be patient while the ship carries you across the water. 6 days of rest, before the hard work of building a new life begins. You could do worse. The stairwell down to F deck is crowded. People moving in both directions. You stick close to Podrick, not wanting to lose him in the shuffle. Getting separated in this maze could mean missing your meal entirely, and your stomach is making some very clear, very loud demands about that. Near the bottom of the stairs, you almost crash right into a man coming up. "Watch yourself there," he says, and then his face changes. "Podrick? Podrick Brennan." Your cousin's eyes go wide. "Seamus? Seamus O'Brien." The two men grab each other's arms, grinning like idiots. You've never seen this Seamus in your life, but apparently Podrick knows him from way back. Childhood friends from neighboring townlands before Seamus's family moved away. "I didn't know you were on this ship," Podrick says. "Same. When did you board?" "Queenstown. Yesterday." "Ah, we came on at Southampton. Been aboard 2 days now." Seamus notices you standing there. "Who's this?" "My cousin, Cillian. He's coming with me to Boston." You shake hands. Seamus has a strong grip and an open, friendly face. The kind of guy you trust right away, even if you've only known him 30 seconds. "Boston, is it?" Seamus says. "We're headed to New York ourselves. My sister's there. Sent us money for the crossing." He gestures vaguely. "I'm bunked forward with the other lads. Cabin's got 8 of us in there. All strangers except me brother. But it's not bad. Clean. Food's good. 8 in one cabin." Seamus just shrugs. "Better than a dormitory. Better than the ship we looked at before this one. That one had all of steerage in one big room, sleeping on shelves like cargo. This," he says, looking around, "this is luxury. I'm telling you." He's right. You've heard the stories about the old immigrant ships. The coffin ships, they called them during the famine. People packed in so tight they could barely move. Disease spreading like wildfire. Bodies thrown overboard when they died mid-crossing. Compared to that, Titanic's third class is a palace. Seamus has to go, meeting someone on deck, but he promises to find you later. Catch up proper. Share a drink if we can find one. Podrick waves as he disappears up the stairs, then turns to you with the first real smile you've seen since you boarded. "Can you believe it? Seamus O'Brien. Haven't seen him in 10 years. Small world, you think. Or maybe it's a big world that's getting smaller. All these people from all these places, all funneling onto ships, all heading to the same promised land. You're bound to run into a familiar face eventually. The dining saloon is just ahead now. You can smell it before you see it. Food smells. Breakfast smells. Your stomach growls loud enough for Podrick to hear it, and he laughs. "Come on then," he says. "Let's eat." You follow him through the doors and into the noise and the bustle of 700 people trying to start their day. The journey continues. The ocean stretches out endlessly in all directions, invisible from down here, but present in every rock and sway of the deck beneath your feet. Somewhere far ahead, still impossibly distant, America is waiting. Your sister is waiting. Your whole future is waiting. But right now, breakfast is waiting. And that's enough. The bugle that called you down here is still echoing in your head. A bright, brassy sound that cut right through all the noise of the corridors. You'll hear it 3 times a day from now on. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. The rhythm of shipboard life, measured out in meals and the long, lazy spaces in between. You push through the doors into the dining saloon, and the first thing that hits you is the size. This room is bigger than your whole church back home. You've never been in a space this large that wasn't a cathedral or a marketplace. And this one is underground, well, underwater, buried in the steel belly of this impossible floating city. Long wooden tables stretch from one end of the room to the other, each one big enough to seat 20 people easy. The chairs aren't bolted down, which surprises you until you think about it. People need to slide in and out, make room, because there's a constant flow coming and going. 700 third-class passengers, and a room that holds maybe 400. They do it in sittings. First sitting, second sitting. You're in the first one, which means you get the fresh bread, the hot porridge, before the crowd picks everything over. The room is split right down the middle by a watertight bulkhead. A huge steel wall with a door in it, designed to slam shut if the ship starts flooding. Strange to eat your breakfast right next to a reminder that things can go wrong at sea. But you don't think about it for long. The food smells too good. Then you see it. At the far end of the room, near the wall. A single table, smaller than the others, set facing the bulkhead. Just 2 seats, both of them staring directly at the steel wall instead of out into the room. A guy behind you laughs. That's table 17, the antisocial table. For the ones who can't stand company. He shakes his head. Can you imagine? Crossing the Atlantic with your nose 2 feet from a wall. Someone must want it, you figure. Someone must prefer silence to conversation. You can almost understand that. There are moments on this ship when the noise of 700 people feels like it might crush you. When you'd give anything for a quiet corner where nobody expects you to talk. But not at breakfast. At breakfast, you want to be surrounded by life. The walls are bare steel, painted white. You can see the rivets, the beams that hold everything together. It's not fancy, not like you imagine first class must be, with wood panels and crystal lights. But it's not ugly either. There's something honest about it. Something that says, this is a ship. We're not pretending it's anything else. But we made it as nice as we could for you. And they have. There are posters on the walls advertising other White Star Line ships. The Olympic, Titanic's nearly identical sister. You even see posters for other lines, Holland America, Atlantic Transport. Someone later explains a rich American named Morgan bought them all up, trying to control the whole Atlantic shipping game. It didn't quite work out, but that's a story for another time. Right now, the only story is what's on your plate. You and Podrick find spots at one of the long tables. The Finnish man from your cabin ends up across from you again. He just nods, doesn't speak. Next to him, a young Swedish couple keeps stealing glances at each other, smiling like they've got a secret. Newlyweds, for sure. Then there's an older woman traveling alone, who turns out to be from Galway, heading to Philadelphia to see her grandkids. Her name is Nora. She's probably 50, but life ages people different. Her face has lines from worry and work, but her eyes are bright and her smile is quick. "First crossing?" she asks, and you nod. "Third for me," she says. Back and forth, back and forth. My Patrick went over 10 years ago, got himself established, brought over his wife. Now it's my turn to see the grandchildren before I'm too old to make the trip. Third crossing. You can't imagine doing this 3 times. Once feels like plenty. Once feels like a miracle. But people do it all the time, you realize. This isn't the edge of the world anymore. It's just a big puddle with really good boats now. People cross it like they'd cross the Irish Sea. Not casually, but not like it's the end of everything either. Then the steward arrives with breakfast. He's wearing a white jacket with a numbered badge on his arm. Very official. And he's carrying a tray loaded with more food than you've seen in one place since Christmas 2 years back. Porridge first. Big steaming bowls of oatmeal with milk on the side. You haven't had oatmeal this thick and creamy since you were a kid. The stuff at home is thin and watery, stretched to feed as many mouths as possible. This is the real thing. This is luxury. Then come the eggs. Scrambled, piled on a plate like little yellow clouds. Back home, eggs are for selling. You keep chickens, sure, but those eggs go to market to buy flour and salt. Eating eggs for breakfast is something rich people do. Or, apparently, something third-class passengers on the Titanic do. Smoked herrings appear. You've never had them. Podrick eyes them like they might bite back. But the Finnish man across from you lights up like someone handed him gold. He says something in his own language, clearly delighted, and digs right in. Bread and butter. Fresh bread. Not the hard stuff you packed. Soft and warm, slathered with actual butter. Not the margarine substitute you're used to. And marmalade. Orange marmalade in little pots. You've seen it in shop windows but never tasted it. You spread some on your bread, take a bite, and close your eyes. Sweet and bitter at the same time. Tangy, bright. Nothing like anything you've ever eaten. Good. Isn't it? Nora laughs at your expression. Wait till you try the plum pudding at dinner. That'll really knock your socks off. There's tea, of course, strong and hot. And coffee for those who want it. You've had coffee a few times before. Tastes like burned earth, in your opinion, but plenty seem to love it. The Swedish newlyweds are both drinking it, adding sugar from a bowl just sitting there in the middle of the table. Sugar, just sitting there, free for the taking. You put a spoonful in your tea, then another. It's the sweetest cup you've ever had, and you can't help grinning like a fool. This is third class, the cheapest ticket on the ship, and you're eating better than you have in months, maybe years. Around you, the room hums with conversation in a dozen languages. You catch bits of English, Irish, something Nordic, maybe Italian or Greek. The stewards move between tables like dancers, balancing trays, refilling cups, answering questions with patient smiles. Not everyone knows what to do with the food. You watch a family at the next table puzzle over the smoked herrings, the kids poking at them like they might be alive. Their mother takes a careful bite, chews, then nods. The kids follow her lead. First times everywhere. First time eating this. First time in a room this big. First time being waited on by uniformed stewards who call you, sir. Even though you're a 19-year-old farm boy with dirt, probably still under your fingernails. A printed card on the table lists the day's meals. You notice the small print at the very bottom. Any complaint respecting the food supplied, want of attention, or incivility should be at once reported to the purser or chief steward. For purposes of identification, each steward wears a numbered badge on the arm. Incivility. You've never seen that word before, but you get it. They're promising to treat you with respect. Even down here, they're saying if anyone is rude to you, you can report them and something will happen. That feels strange, revolutionary almost. You're used to being the bottom of the heap, the farmer's son, the Irish boy, the person who steps aside. And here's a ship, promising in writing to be civil to you. Maybe it's just good business. Happy passengers tell their friends. Third-class people write home. If they say the Titanic treated them well, maybe their families book passage on White Star, too. The money's in the volume, remember, in hundreds of immigrants crossing every week. But still, feels like something. The Swedish newlyweds are named Eric and Ingrid. They don't have much English, but enough. Married 2 weeks ago. Heading to Minnesota, where Eric has family. He's a carpenter. She was a seamstress. They're young, maybe younger than you, and so clearly in love it almost hurts to look at them. His hand keeps finding hers under the table. She laughs at everything he says. Nora from Galway tells stories about her other crossings. The first one was in 1892, on a ship so bad she won't even name it. Dormitories, she says, shuddering. Men and women and children all mixed together. No privacy, no decent food. You brought your own and hoped it lasted. I was sick the whole way. Swore I'd never do it again. But she did, obviously, because family pulls you across oceans whether you want to go or not. This ship, though, she says, gesturing around the dining saloon. This is something else entirely. I've got my own cabin, well, sharing with 3 other women, but still a cabin with a door that closes. Real beds, not wooden shelves. And someone brings me food 3 times a day like I'm a lady of leisure. She laughs at the absurdity of it. A grandmother from Galway, treated like a lady of leisure. She's right. This is different. You've heard the old stories, too. The coffin ships during the famine, when people died by the dozens. The steerage sections where immigrants were packed so tight they could barely breathe. Captains who saw their human cargo as a problem at best. The Titanic isn't like that. White Star figured out that treating people decently is actually good for business. That clean cabins and hot meals and stewards with numbered badges create a reputation. Your duh would call it capitalism, the invisible hand making things better, not out of kindness, but out of greed. But maybe it doesn't matter why they treat you well. Maybe it only matters that they do. Breakfast winds down. The stewards clear plates, wipe tables for the next sitting. You're supposed to leave now, make room for the hundreds still waiting. The second sitting gets the same food, maybe just a little less fresh. You hang your coat on one of the hooks along the wall before you go. There's no cloakroom in third class. Just rows of hooks, simple and practical. Your coat hangs next to the Finnish man's heavy wool jacket and Nora's sensible shawl. Everyone's belongings mixed together. Everyone's lives overlapping in this temporary, floating town. You pass the watertight bulkhead on your way out, that massive steel wall with the door. You run your hand along the cold metal frame. Everything on this ship is engineered. Everything is planned. The steel, the rivets, the carefully calculated compartments that make it unsinkable. The scheduled meal times, the numbered badges, the printed menus promising civility. Nothing is left to chance. It makes you feel safe somehow. All this planning. People much smarter than you have thought through every detail, built backups for the backups. You're in good hands. The corridor outside is crowded now, people moving both ways. You step aside to let a steward pass, his arms full of fresh linens. Somewhere a child laughs. Somewhere else voices are raised in song. Someone practicing hymns or just singing for the joy of it. The ship is alive with sound, with movement, with 700 individual lives all happening at once, overlapping like threads in a tapestry. You're one of those threads now. Your story is woven into this floating city, at least for these 6 days. Whatever happens next, You'll always be someone who crossed the Atlantic on the Titanic, who ate breakfast in this dining saloon, who walked these corridors. It's not a small thing being part of history, even if you don't know it yet. Padraig tugs your sleeve. "Come on," he says. "Let's go up. I want to see the sky." You nod. The sky sounds good after the enclosed spaces below, after the noise and the crowds and a meal in a room with no windows. The open air sounds like exactly what you need. The steel walls vibrate gently with the power of the engines far below, and the day unfolds in front of you, full of possibilities you're only starting to imagine. The sky hits you like a physical thing. After hours down in those enclosed spaces, the corridors, the cabin, the windowless dining saloon, stepping out onto the open deck feels like being born all over again. The wind, the smell of salt, the endless blue stretching in every direction until it smashes into the endless blue of the ocean. You stop at the top of the stairs and just breathe. Padraig does the same beside you. Neither of you says a word. There's nothing to say. The Atlantic is laid out before you, behind you on every side. And for a long minute, that's all that exists. Just you and the water and the wind and the pale April sun doing its best to warm the air. Third class gets more open deck space than you expected. The stern section especially. There's a whole area back here called the poop deck. Padraig snickers when you hear the name. Poop deck? Sounds like something a child made up. But that's the real nautical term, apparently. The raised deck at the very back of the ship. There are benches lined along the railings. Simple wooden things bolted right to the deck. Passengers can sit and watch the water churn behind them. The ship's wake stretches back toward the horizon like a white road, pointing straight to everything you left behind. Ireland is back there somewhere. Your parents, your home, the life you knew. You decide not to look that way for too long. Instead, you explore. The deck is cluttered with equipment. Big electric cranes loom overhead, used for loading cargo back in port. Their shadows fall across the wooden planking in strange, sharp shapes. Cargo hatches dot the surface, covered with heavy iron lids that seal the holds below. If you lifted one of those lids and looked down, you'd see a shaft dropping 5 stories into the belly of the ship, where all the trunks and crates are stored. You don't lift any lids. You're not sure you're allowed to, but you look at the edges, marvel at the engineering. Everything here is built for a job. Nothing is just for show. Not back here in third-class territory, anyway. The railing at the stern catches your eye. It's low, really low, maybe 3 feet high if that. You're not a tall guy, but even you could topple over it without much effort. Back home, you worked on roofs with your dad. Heights never bothered you. But looking over this railing, at the churning water so far below, makes your stomach clench in a way a roof never did. The water is a long way down, and it's cold, and it's moving fast. You take a step back. Other passengers are out here enjoying the air. Families, mostly, since this is the stern where women and children are quartered. A bunch of kids run past you, playing some kind of chasing game, their laughter sharp and bright in the salt wind. Their mothers watch from the benches, calling out warnings. Don't run so fast. Not so close to the railing. Nobody says the thing everyone is thinking, that a child could fit right through those railings, that the gap between the posts is wide enough for a small body, that one slip, one stumble could mean disaster. But then, life is always like that, isn't it? Full of dangers you learn to live with. The river near your village drowned children. The roads crushed people under cartwheels. This railing is just one more risk in a world made of risks. You find a bench and sit. Padraig joins you. The sun is weak, but it's out. And with the wind blocked by the ship's superstructure, you can almost feel warm if you close your eyes and pretend. The ship moves beneath you. You hadn't really noticed it down below. Down there, the vibration of the engines masked everything else. But up here in the open air, you can feel the Titanic's actual motion. Long, slow rolls from side to side, gentle pitches forward and back. The Atlantic swells, lifting the hull and setting it down again, over and over, in a rhythm that feels almost like breathing. Soothing once you get used to it, like being rocked in a cradle, like the ship is a living creature, carrying you across the water on its back. Podrick seems to agree. The green tinge hasn't come back to his face. If anything, he looks better out here than he has since leaving Ireland. The fresh air, the steady horizon, the sense of space after the cramped quarters below. I could stay here all day, he says. You could too. But there's more to see, more to explore while you have the chance. The well deck is forward of the poop deck, one level down. You can see it from where you're sitting. A broad open area behind the fourth funnel. More benches there, more passengers milling about. And above them, visible on the decks that rise toward the front of the ship, you can see first-class passengers taking their own walks. They look different from up there. Smaller, more distant, but also more colorful somehow. The women in bright dresses and huge, elaborate hats. The men in well-tailored suits. They stroll along their own promenade, separate from you in a world that's only a few hundred feet away but might as well be another planet. You don't feel bitter about it. Not really. They paid more. They get more. That's how the world works. You knew that before you ever set foot on this ship. But there's something strange about seeing it so clearly. The invisible lines that divide people. The physical barriers that keep the classes apart. Up there is luxury beyond imagining. Down here is comfortable but simple. And between them, nothing but steel and wood and the unspoken agreement that everyone will stay where they belong. You wonder if any of them ever look down. If they see you and the other third-class passengers and wonder about your lives, your stories, your reasons for being here. Probably not. Why would they? You're just the cargo that happens to be human. The bodies being shipped across the ocean to fill American factories and farms and cities. Valuable altogether, maybe. Invisible alone. But that's fine. You don't need them to see you. You have your own life to live, your own future to build. Let them have their fancy suites and their 10-course dinners and their Turkish baths. You have a full stomach, a warm bed, and a ticket to the other side. That's enough. That's plenty. You and Podrick make your way down to the well deck. It's busier here, more sheltered from the wind. People cluster in small groups, chatting, passing the time. You recognize a few faces from breakfast. The Finnish man is here, leaning against the railing, staring out at the water with an expression you can't read. Nora from Galway is sitting on a bench with two other women, deep in conversation. And there's your cabin mate, Margaret, with her children. Little William is pretending to be a sailor, marching back and forth with serious concentration. Mary is sitting at her mother's feet, playing with that same bit of rope she found. Margaret waves when she sees you. Getting some air? Needed to see the sky, you say. She nods, understanding. It's easy to forget there is one down below. I've been bringing the children up every few hours. They'd go mad otherwise, cooped up in that cabin. Her husband, Daniel, is nowhere in sight. He's forward with the other men, in a completely different part of the ship. They might meet for meals if the sittings line up right. They might pass each other on Scotland Road. But for now, for these 6 days, they live separately. Man and wife, parents, sleeping 800 feet apart. The things people endure for a chance at something better. Near the edge of the well deck, partially sheltered by an overhang, you find something you didn't expect. A wheel. A ship's steering wheel like the ones you've seen in pictures. But this one is here at the stern, mounted on a raised platform. Skylights are set into the deck around it. Podrig whistles low. Is that what I think it is? You look closer. The wheel is connected to something below. You can see the control linkage, the shaft disappearing through the deck. The skylights, you realize they look down into a room full of machinery. The steering engine room. This must be a backup helm. A way to control the ship from back here if something goes wrong with the main bridge up front. Docking bridge, says a voice behind you. For when she's coming in and out of harbor. You turn. An older man. Weathered face, calloused hands. A crew member, you think at first, but no. His clothes are too worn, too patched. He's a passenger like you. I worked ships for 30 years, he explains, before my back gave out. Now I'm heading to live with my daughter in Baltimore. He gestures at the helm. That wheel there connects straight to the steering engines. No hydraulics, no telegraphs. If something went wrong with the main controls, a pilot could bring her in from back here. Long as he could see where he was going. He points forward along the incredible length of the ship. You can see the funnels, the masts, the bridge structure far, far ahead. 800 feet of steel and machinery between you and the bow. Can't see everything from here, the man continues. But you can see enough. Enough to clear a dock. Enough to get her turned around in a tight harbor. He shakes his head, almost admiring. They thought of everything building this one. Every possible problem. Every possible solution. Redundancy on redundancy. He wanders off, still muttering to himself about steering gears and backup systems. You watch him go, then turn back to the wheel. You touch it very gently. The wood is smooth under your fingers. Thousands of hands have touched this wheel before yours. Shipbuilders, crew, probably other curious passengers just like you. You imagine standing here, steering the largest ship in the world. Feeling her respond to your touch. Guiding all that steel and steam and human cargo across the vast emptiness of the ocean. It's a fantasy, of course. You'll never steer anything bigger than a fishing boat. But for a moment, you let yourself pretend. The ship moves beneath you as you stand there. Not the quick, nervous rocking of a small boat. This is different. Long, slow rolls. Gentle pitches. The motion of something so massive that even the Atlantic can only nudge it, never toss it around. They said Titanic would barely feel the waves. That's what the posters promised. And it's mostly true, but she still moves. Every ship moves. The ocean doesn't care about human engineering. It does what it wants, and everything floating on it just has to adjust. Your body is adjusting. You don't notice it consciously anymore. The way you shift your weight, the way your knees flex slightly with each roll. It's become automatic, natural, like the ship taught your muscles a new language overnight. Podrig still notices. You can see it in his face, the slight tension, the way he braces himself against every swell. His sea legs are coming, but they're not here yet. Give him another day. The day passes like that, wandering the open decks, finding quiet corners and busy crowds, watching the water slide past, endless and unchanging, while the ship carries you steadily west. You find a spot near the stern railing where you can look back at the wake. The ship leaves a trail behind her, a wide road of churned white water that stretches back toward the horizon, back toward Ireland, back toward everything you left. If you squint, you can almost see it. The green hills, the stone walls, your mother standing at the cottage door, watching the road like she'll watch it every day until you send word you're safe. You look away. Around noon, the bugle sounds for lunch. You and Podrig make your way back down to the dining saloon, where rice soup and roast beef and boiled potatoes are waiting. The food is just as good as breakfast, just as abundant, just as strange to be receiving it without having worked a single minute for it. The Finnish man is at your table again. He smiles in greeting, still doesn't speak. But he's learned to pass the bread without being asked, and you've learned to pour his tea when the pot comes around. Small kindnesses, the language of people who don't share words. After lunch, more wandering. You find a covered area near the stern where benches are set up in rows, protected from the weather. A good place if it rains. A place where kids can play even when the decks are wet. People have already claimed spots. Reading, talking, just sitting. An old woman is knitting, her needles clicking in time with the ship's motion. A young man is writing in a notebook, covering page after page with cramped handwriting. Letters home, probably, or a diary of the voyage. You should write to your mother. You promised you would. But you don't have paper, don't have a pen. And even if you did, what would you say? Everything is strange and wonderful and terrifying, and I don't know who I'll be when I get to the other side. That's not the kind of letter a mother wants. So instead, you sit. Watch the clouds drift overhead. Feel the ship roll beneath you, that endless, gentle rocking, like a cradle, like being held. You understand now why sailors might love the sea, despite everything. There's something peaceful about being carried, about surrendering control to something so much larger than yourself. Letting your mind empty out until there's nothing but this deck, this bench, this pale April sun. Padraig falls asleep beside you, his head drooping onto your shoulder. You don't move him. Let him rest. The seasickness took more out of him than he wants to admit. And sleep is the best medicine for whatever ails you. The afternoon stretches on. The sun moves behind a thin veil of clouds. The temperature drops a little as evening gets closer. You'll need to go back inside soon. Back to the cabin, the corridors, the thin walls that share everyone's secrets. But not yet. Not quite yet. For now, you're just going to sit here and watch the horizon. Watch the endless water that separates your old life from your new one. Watch the sky slowly darken toward night. Tomorrow you'll do this again. And the day after. And the day after that. For more days of floating between worlds. For more days of this suspended time, when nothing is required of you except to wait. Then America. Then the real journey begins. But that's tomorrow's problem. Today, you're just going to breathe. The Atlantic stretches endlessly in every direction. And somewhere far ahead, still invisible beyond the curve of the earth, your future is waiting. The cold finally drives you inside. April in the North Atlantic isn't full-blown winter, but it's not warm either. The wind finds every threadbare spot in your coat, and your fingers go numb. Padraig starts shivering in a way that worries you, so you head back down through the heavy doors into the still, warm air of E-deck. As your eyes adjust, you realize this space is nicer than you expected. There's a covered area near the stairs, a kind of sheltered promenade with benches built into the walls. Protected from the weather, but still open enough that it doesn't feel like a coffin. People are gathered here, talking in small groups, reading, just sitting. It feels like the lobby of a decent hotel. Not a fancy one, but a respectable place. The kind your family would walk past back in Cork with a mix of curiosity and longing. Padraig finds a seat and sinks into it, grateful. His face is pale from the cold now, not sickness. You sit beside him and let the warmth do its work. From here, you can see two doorways leading to larger rooms. A sign on one says, smoking room. The other, general room. They're separated by a bulkhead, each for a different crowd, a different purpose. I'm gonna look around, you tell Padraig. You rest. He nods, already half asleep, knocked out by the fresh air and the warmth. You walk toward the smoking room first, curious. It looks like a pub. That's your first thought. You push through the door into a space that could have been lifted straight from any decent drinking establishment in Cork or Dublin. Wood paneling on the walls. Simple, comfortable furniture. a warmth that comes from bodies and conversation, and a faint, familiar haze of tobacco smoke hanging in the air. Men fill the room, only men. This is their territory, their retreat from the mixed company of the rest of the ship. They sit in small groups, talking, playing cards, nursing glasses of whiskey or porter. Some smoke cigarettes, others have pipes. A few are working on plugs of chewing tobacco, spitting into brass spittoons scattered across the floor. The spittoons surprise you. They're everywhere. Little brass bowls to catch the brown streams of tobacco juice. The floor around them is stained. Some things you suppose can't be entirely contained. You find an empty seat near the wall. Nobody pays you much mind. You're just another young man in a room full of young men, all heading somewhere, all leaving something behind. The wood paneling is simple but handsome. Not the fancy carved stuff you imagine they have upstairs, but solid, well-made, the kind of craftsmanship your da would appreciate. Good joints, smooth surfaces, no shortcuts. A card game at the next table draws your eye. 5 men hunched over a battered deck. Coins stacked in the center. Poker, maybe. They're speaking a mix of English and something else, German, maybe, or Dutch. One of the men, with a thick mustache waxed into points, seems to be winning. A steward appears from a pantry in the back. He's carrying a tray with glasses and bottles. When he reaches your corner, he pauses. "Something to drink, sir?" "Sir." There it is again. "What do you have?" "Whiskey, porter, stout, ale. Tea if you prefer." You order a porter and fish a coin from your pocket. He returns a moment later with a glass of dark liquid. It's good. Better than the stuff at home. Smoother. You sip it slowly, making it last. Around you, conversations rise and fall. You catch pieces of stories. A man from Liverpool heading to join his brother in Chicago. A Scandinavian farmer who sold everything for a piece of land in Minnesota. 2 Irish lads from Kerry arguing good-naturedly about hurling. The room feels alive in a way the cabins don't. Down there, everyone's just passing through. Here, people have stopped, settled, made themselves at home at least for an hour. The tobacco smoke, the clink of glasses, the low murmur of voices. It creates something that feels almost domestic. You finish your porter. You consider another, but money's tight. Every coin you spend here is a coin you won't have in America. So you leave the glass and stand. Nod to the men at the card game who ignore you. Make your way back to the covered area. Podrig is still sleeping, slumped against the wall. The general room is on the other side. You decide to look. It's similar in layout to the smoking room, but completely different in feel. Brighter, for one thing. Portholes let in the gray afternoon light. And it's quieter even with more people. Families are here. Women with children. Older folks who don't want to breathe smoke all day. The furniture is simpler. Wooden benches and chairs, no upholstery, but clean and sturdy, arranged in little clusters. People have spread out, claimed their spots. A mother nurses an infant in a corner, a shawl draped for privacy. Kids play on the floor with a string game. Old women knit. Old men doze. The air smells different, cleaner. No tobacco, just wool and soap and the faint, milky smell of babies. It's a domestic space. Despite being on a ship in the middle of the ocean, the women have made it their own. You can see who sits where by the worn spots on the benches. Near the back, a door is marked, crew only. It leads to the steering engine room someone told you earlier. All that power, hidden behind a simple wooden door, while families sit and chat a few feet away. Margaret is here with her kids. She's talking to another young mother who has twins, constantly having to separate the boys when they start fighting. Margaret sees you and waves, but doesn't call you over. Women's business, probably. You don't take offense. Instead, you find a seat by a porthole and look out at the water. The light is different now. Afternoon fading toward evening. The ocean looks smaller from in here, framed by the round glass. Just a picture. A scene you're watching, not a world you're floating in. You think about your mother. She'll be worried by now. It's been days. She'll be at Mass, probably, praying for her son somewhere on the ocean. The thought makes your chest tight. A sharp, sudden homesickness. You push it down. No time for that. No use for it. The room fills up as evening comes on. More families coming in from the cold. More kids running around. The noise level rises, but it's a comfortable noise. The sound of people living. Nora from Galway appears, spots you by the porthole and comes over. She settles into the chair beside you with a sigh. "Long day," she says. "Aren't they all on a ship?" You reply. She laughs. "True enough. Nothing to do but wait. I'm not used to it. Back home, there's always work. Always something needs doing. Here, I feel useless." You know what she means. Your hands keep wanting tasks. Your body expects the rhythm of work that's defined your life. This idleness feels wrong, unearned. "It's only 6 days, you say. Then back to work. God willing," she says, crossing herself. Quick, automatic gesture. "My Patrick says there's plenty of work in Philadelphia. Factory work, domestic service. But you never know until you're there. Do you? You don't. That's the gamble all of you are making. Selling everything, leaving everyone, crossing an ocean on the promise that the other side will be better. Maybe it will. Probably it will. But there are no guarantees. The bugle sounds for dinner. Third sitting. You're in that one, apparently. Everyone starts gathering their things, collecting kids, moving toward the doors. You and Nora walk together to the dining saloon. Podrick joins you somewhere along the way, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He looks better. The rest did him good. Dinner is everything the menu promised. Cold meats, cheese, pickles, fresh bread and butter, stewed figs and rice, and cabin biscuits. Hard, dry crackers you're supposed to dip in tea to soften. The cheese is sharp. The pickles make your mouth pucker. The stewed figs are sweet enough to be dessert, soft and sticky in a sauce that tastes like cinnamon. You eat slowly. There's no rush. The stewards keep the tea coming pot after pot. The dining saloon buzzes with conversation in a dozen languages. At the table behind you, a group of young men are singing something in Swedish. At the table ahead, 2 old women are arguing in what might be Polish. The noise washes over you like music. The Finnish man is at your table again. You've started thinking of him as a fixture. He still doesn't speak English, but you've got a system now. Nods, smiles, gestures. He shows you the right way to eat the cabin biscuits, dunking them for exactly the right amount of time. Too short, they're rock hard. Too long, they dissolve into mush. After dinner, you're tired. The day has been longer than it felt. All that walking, sitting in the cold. Your body wants sleep. But first, you go back to the cabin. Wash your face in the basin. The water's cold, of course. It's always cold. But it's clean. You splash it on your cheeks. Feel the chill tighten your skin. A small ritual to mark the end of the day. You change into your night clothes. Same shirt you wore yesterday, the one you keep for sleeping. The wool trousers you'll put back on in the morning. Traveling light means wearing things over and over. You climb into your bunk and lie there in the darkness, listening to the sounds of the ship. The engines rumble far below. The hull creaks and groans as it flexes against the waves. Voices drift through the thin walls. Someone's snoring. Someone else is praying, a rhythmic murmur in a language you don't know. Margaret and her kids are settling in. The baby fusses, then goes quiet. Little William asks for a story, and Margaret tells him one. Something about a brave rabbit and a clever fox. Her voice is soft and warm. Even though the story isn't for you, you find yourself listening. The ship rocks gently, back and forth, like a cradle, like your mother's arms when you were small. You close your eyes. Tomorrow will be another day like this one. Meals and wandering and waiting. The endless patience of ocean travel. You're getting used to it. The rhythm of shipboard life. The way time stretches and compresses. The strange intimacy of living so close to strangers. For more days. Then New York. Then everything changes. But that's tomorrow's problem. Tonight, you're just going to sleep. The steady vibration of the hull becomes a lullaby. And gradually, gently, consciousness slips away. The days start to blur together after that. That's the strange thing about life at sea. Each day is different and exactly the same. You wake up, you eat, you walk the decks or sit in the common rooms, you eat again, you wander some more, you eat a third time, you sleep. Then you do it all over again. By the third full day, you've stopped counting hours. By the fourth, you've almost forgotten what dry land looks like. The ocean is your whole world now. The steel corridors, the rocking deck, the endless horizon that never gets any closer no matter how long you stare. Your body has fully adjusted to the ship's motion. That constant gentle sway that made Podrig so sick feels as natural as walking now. You don't even notice it anymore, except at night when the rocking helps pull you under into sleep. The other passengers have become familiar. Not friends exactly. You don't know most of their names, but you recognize their faces, their habits. The Finnish man who always sits in the same spot. Nora with her endless stories about her grandkids. The Swedish newlyweds who still can't keep their hands off each other. Even the stewards are predictable now. You know which ones smile and which ones don't. Which ones fill your teacup without being asked. Small things that mean nothing and everything when you're trapped in a floating box with the same people, day after day. Saturday passes. Another day of walking and eating and waiting. But something's different. The weather turns colder. You can see your breath on the open decks now. Little puffs of white that vanish almost before they form. The sun might be shining, but there's no warmth in it. April in the North Atlantic. Winter's hanging on by its fingernails. People start talking about the cold. In the smoking room, in the general room out on deck. How it came on so sudden. How the temperature dropped overnight. The old sailors among the passengers, the ones who worked the trade routes, they nod knowingly. They mutter about ice. There's ice up here. One of them says in the smoking room, his voice gravelly from years of pipe smoke. Bergs and floes. Pack ice drifting down from the Arctic. Ships see 'em all the time this time of year. You don't think much about it. Ice is the captain's problem, not yours. He knows these waters. He knows his ship. Let him worry about what's floating out there in the dark. Sunday morning dawns clear and bright and colder than ever. It's April 14th. 5 days since you boarded at Queenstown. One more day, maybe two before New York. The end is so close you can almost taste it. After breakfast, word spreads through third class. Mass is being held. 2 priests from second class are conducting services. One in English and French, the other in German and Hungarian. Catholics are invited. You go. Of course you go. Your mother would never forgive you if she found out you were on a ship with a priest and didn't take communion. And besides, it feels right. One last mass before everything changes. One last moment of the faith that's shaped your whole life before you step into a country built by Protestants. The service is held in one of the common areas. Not a proper church. No pews, no altar. Just a room full of people standing and kneeling on the hard floor while Father Biles leads them through the familiar rhythms of the liturgy. He's English, middle-aged, balding, with a gentle voice that carries well. He speaks in Latin first, then English, then French, repeating the key phrases so everyone can follow. The other priest, Father Peruschitz, handles the German and Hungarian. His sermon is about faith, about trusting in God's plan even when the path is unclear, about the courage it takes to leave everything familiar and step into the unknown. He's talking about Abraham, about the Israelites, about wanderers in Scripture. But everyone knows he's really talking about them. The immigrants, the people crossing the ocean to start new lives. You kneel when you're supposed to kneel. Stand when you're supposed to stand. Speak the responses you've been saying since before you could read. The Lord be with you, and with your spirit. The words are automatic, like breathing. Around you, fellow Catholics do the same. Irish and Italian and Polish and German, all united for this moment in the ancient rituals of the Church. Different languages, different stories, different reasons for being on this ship. But the same faith, the same prayers, the same hope. You think about your mother. She's at Mass right now, too. Probably in the little church where you were baptized, where you received your first communion, where you'll never set foot again. She's kneeling on the same hard wooden bench she's knelt on every Sunday since she was a girl, praying for her son who's somewhere on the ocean. The thought hits you square in the chest. Homesickness, sharp and sudden. You push it down. No time for that. No use for it. You made your choice. Now you live with it. After communion, after the final blessing, people scatter back to their routines. The dining saloon for those who missed breakfast. The decks for those who want air despite the cold. The common rooms for everyone else. You spend the afternoon in the general room, watching life happen. Kids play. Women talk. Old men doze. Someone has a deck of cards, and a game starts at one of the tables. You don't know the rules, but you watch anyway. Something to pass the time. Margaret appears with her children. Little William is bouncing off the walls, driving his mother slowly toward madness. He's going stir-crazy, she says, nodding at her son. Needs to run. There's no space for it down here. You offer to take him up to the deck. Let him burn off some energy. Margaret accepts, grateful, and you spend the next hour chasing William around the well deck while he pretends to be a pirate, a soldier, a whale, whatever his mood dictates. The cold bites at your ears. Your fingers go numb. But William doesn't seem to notice. He runs until his cheeks are red and he's gasping for air. And then he runs some more. Kids are different. They don't feel the cold the way adults do. Or maybe they just don't care. When you finally bring him back inside, he's calm, exhausted, ready for a nap. Margaret thanks you with her eyes. Dinner is the usual affair. Cold meat, cheese, bread, gruel, cabin biscuits. You eat without really tasting it. The food has become routine like everything else. You've stopped marveling at the abundance. After dinner, something changes. It starts in the general room. Someone has a fiddle. Someone else has a tin whistle. A third person sits at the piano in the corner, runs their fingers across the keys, and starts to play. Music fills the room. Not the polished orchestra music from first class. This is rougher, raucous, folk tunes from a dozen countries, played by people who learned them from their parents, who carry songs in their blood. People start to clap, to tap their feet, and then, inevitably, to dance. It happens organically. No announcement, no invitation. Just a few people stepping into the open space between the benches, starting to move. An Irish couple first, spinning through a jig they've probably danced 1,000 times at village gatherings back home. Then others join. Italians and Scandinavians and Germans, each bringing their own steps, their own traditions. You watch from the edge of the room, grinning. This is nothing like the stiff, formal dances upstairs. No waltzes, no dance cards. This is beautiful, joyful chaos. People dancing however they want, wherever they want, with whoever's nearby. The room smells of sweat and wool and spilled beer. Bodies press against bodies. Someone steps on your foot and doesn't apologize. There's no point. Everyone's stepping on everyone. That's just how it is when 70 people try to dance in a space meant for 40. But nobody complains. Nobody cares. The music is too good. The feeling is too right. After days of waiting and watching and doing nothing, everyone needs this. The release, the joy, the simple human pleasure of moving your body to a rhythm. The piano player shifts to something faster. The fiddler keeps up. And suddenly, Eugene Daly is there, pushing through the crowd, his uilleann pipes tucked under his arm. You recognize him immediately. The piper from the dock at Queenstown. The one who played Aaron's Lament as Ireland disappeared behind you. He'd been crying then. He's not crying now. Now he's grinning, his face flushed, his fingers already finding the chanter as he squeezes the bag. The pipes wail to life. There's something about the sound of uilleann pipes that goes straight to your spine. That high, keening melody. Ancient, mournful, and utterly alive, all at once. It doesn't matter what song he's playing. The sound itself is enough. The sound of Ireland, of home, of everything you left behind. But tonight, Daly isn't playing mourning songs. Tonight, he's playing jigs and reels. The music of celebration. The music that makes your feet want to move whether you want them to or not. A girl appears at your elbow. Young, pretty, her face flushed from dancing. Swedish or Norwegian, you think. Dance, she says, the word barely audible over the music. You should say no. You're a terrible dancer. You'll step on her feet. Make a fool of yourself. But her smile is wide. Her eyes are bright. And what the hell? You're on a ship in the middle of the ocean. Who's going to judge you? You dance. It's clumsy at first. You don't know the steps. Neither does she, not really. You're both making it up as you go, trying to match the rhythm, trying not to crash into the other couple spinning around you. But after a minute, it stops matching. The music takes over. Your body finds its own rhythm. You're not dancing well, but you're dancing, and that's enough. The girl laughs. You laugh. Everyone is laughing. The room is packed now. Word has spread. People have come from everywhere, from the smoking room, from the cabins, from the open decks where they were watching the stars. The party has taken on a life of its own. Someone brings out whiskey. Someone else has a bottle of wine. Glasses are filled and emptied and filled again. The dancing gets wilder. The music gets louder. The postal clerks 2 decks up are probably cursing every musician in steerage. But nobody down here cares. At some point, the Italians take over the floor. A group of young men from Naples or Palermo, dancing something that looks like controlled madness. Fast feet, dramatic arms, shouts and claps at all the wrong times. Everyone else backs off to watch, forming a circle, cheering them on. Strange dance. Someone mutters beside you. It's Nora. But a good one, you say. She nods, clapping along with everyone else. The Italians finish with a flourish. The room erupts in applause. Then the Irish take the floor again, and the fiddle and pipes launch into a reel so fast it makes your head spin just listening. You find yourself back against the wall, catching your breath. Your legs ache, your lungs burn, but you're smiling so hard your face hurts. This is what you came for. Not the ship, not the voyage, not even America. This moment, this feeling, being surrounded by strangers who feel like family. All of you dancing and singing and celebrating because tomorrow is uncertain, and tonight is here. Podrick finds you. He's been dancing, too. His hair is wild, his shirt untucked. He's holding a cup of something that might be whiskey or might be tea. Hard to tell in this light. Hell of a night. he says. Hell of a night. You agree. You stand there together, cousins, almost brothers, watching the party swirl around you. The music, the laughter, the stamping feet. The faces lit by lamplight, flushed with joy and drink and the simple, screaming fact of being alive. Outside, beyond the steel walls and the portholes and the sealed doors, the Atlantic rolls on, dark and cold. Ice drifts somewhere in that darkness. Silent, patient, the ship plows forward at full speed. 22 knots, eating up the miles. But you don't know that. None of you know. All you know is this room, this music, this moment. Nora grabs your hand and pulls you back onto the floor. She's surprisingly spry for her age, her feet moving in patterns that must have been old when her grandmother was a girl. She spins you around, laughing at your clumsiness, and for a few minutes you're a child again, dancing at a village wedding. The clock ticks toward 11. Then past it, people start to drift away, not all at once, in ones and twos. Parents with tired kids, older folks who can't keep up, couples looking for a little privacy. The crowd thins, but the core remains. The musicians keep playing. The dancers keep dancing. You should go to bed. You know that. Tomorrow you'll be exhausted, and there's still another full day at sea. Maybe two, but you stay. Just a little longer. Just one more song. Daniel Buckley, a lad from County Cork you've talked to a few times, spins past with a girl on his arm. He catches your eye and grins. Grand time, he shouts over the music. Every kind of instrument on board. It's true. The fiddle, the pipes, a tin whistle. Someone has a bowron, the Irish drum, tapping out the heartbeat of every song, and the piano holding it all together. You lean against the wall and let the music wash over you. Your legs are tired, but your heart is full. This is what people mean when they talk about community. Not neighbors you wave to, not churchgoers you see on Sundays. This strangers who become family in the space of a few songs, bound together by rhythm and joy and the shared, unspoken knowledge that tomorrow might be different, but tonight is perfect. The clock ticks toward 11:30. People keep drifting away. The temperature has dropped. You can feel it even in here. A chill seeping through the walls. Someone mentioned seeing stars earlier, bright and clear, the kind you only get when there's no moon. Beautiful, they'd said. Cold and beautiful. You should go to bed. You know that. But you stay. Just a little longer. The pipes wail. The fiddle sings. And somewhere in the darkness outside, the largest ship in the world sails on toward her destiny, carrying 700 souls who have no idea what's coming. You feel it more than hear it. A shudder runs through the ship, a grinding vibration that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, like someone dragged a giant nail along the hull, like the world shifted slightly on its axis and settled back. The music stops. Not all at once, but in a ragged collapse. The fiddle trails off. The pipes deflate with a wheeze. The piano player lifts his hands from the keys and looks around, confused. For a moment, there is only silence. Everyone listening, waiting for something else to happen. Nothing does. What was that? Someone asks. No one answers. No one knows. The ship keeps moving. The engines keep humming. Whatever it was, it hasn't changed anything obvious. The floor is still level. The lights are still on. The world hasn't ended. Nervous laughter breaks the silence. Someone makes a joke about hitting a whale. Someone else suggests they bumped another ship. The tension eases. People start talking again, though more quietly now, more carefully. Eugene Daly squeezes the bag of his pipes. The music resumes softer now, slower. The dancing doesn't start up again. People drift toward the portholes, trying to see something in the darkness outside. You check your pocket watch. It's 20 minutes to midnight. April 14th is almost over. One more day, you think. One more day and then New York. Padraig appears at your elbow. His face is pale in the lamplight. Did you feel that? He asks. Everyone felt it. What do you think it was? You shake your head. Don't know. Probably nothing. But your heart is beating too fast. Something about that sound, that vibration, felt wrong. Felt like something breaking. A steward pushes through the crowd. Young, white jacket, badge on his arm. His face is calm. Professional. Trained for this. Nothing to worry about, ladies and gentlemen, he announces. Just a minor incident. Please continue enjoying your evening. What kind of incident? Someone calls out. The steward smiles, shrugs. The captain is looking into it. Nothing to concern yourselves with. Everything is under control. People want to believe him. You can see the relief washing over their faces. The ship is unsinkable. They've been told. The most advanced vessel ever built. If the crew says everything's fine, then everything must be fine. You want to believe him, too. It would be easier. Go back to dancing. Go back to drinking. Forget that strange grinding noise. But your body doesn't believe. Your body knows something is wrong. The sweat on your palms. The tension in your shoulders. The way your ears are straining for another sound. Another sign. The party resumes, but it's muted now. People keep glancing at the portholes. The joy of an hour ago has been replaced by something else. Something waiting. You decide to go up on deck. See for yourself. Padraig comes with you. A few others from the party follow. All of you climbing the stairs toward the open air and the truth. The cold on deck is brutal. A knife-edged wind slices through your clothes like they're paper. It's dropped even further since you were up here last. Your breath forms thick, white clouds that hang in the still air for a second before vanishing. The stars are out, brilliant and sharp in a moonless sky. The ocean is flat calm, black glass stretching to the horizon in every direction. And there, on the starboard side of the well deck, you see it. Not much, just chunks and pieces, scattered across the wooden planking like someone dropped a bag of diamonds, white and gleaming in the starlight. Some men are already kicking at them, laughing, pretending to play football with the pieces. Where'd this come from? Padraig asks, his voice thin in the cold. You don't answer. You're looking out at the water, back along the path the ship has just traveled. And there, far behind you now, you can just make out a shape in the darkness. A mountain of white, glowing faintly against the black sky. Massive, silent, already receding into the distance as the ship sails on, unwavering. An iceberg. The word lands in your gut like a stone. You hit an iceberg. You've heard the stories. Everyone has. Ships lost in these waters. Vessels torn open by ice that floats 9/10 below the surface. Invisible until it's too late. But the Titanic keeps sailing. The engines haven't missed a beat. No alarms are sounding. The men playing football with the ice chunks are still laughing. If something was really wrong, surely the ship would have stopped. Surely someone would be raising hell. You stand at the railing and watch the iceberg disappear into the night. Your hands are shaking, but maybe that's just the cold. Maybe that's just the whiskey wearing off. Maybe everything really is fine. We should go back inside, Padraig says. His teeth are chattering. Freezing out here. You nod, but you don't move. Something keeps you rooted to the spot. Some instinct you can't name. The ship feels different. Tilted. Just slightly. Maybe forward? Or maybe that's your imagination. Maybe you're looking for trouble where there isn't any. A steward appears on deck. Different one this time. Older. More serious. Everyone, please return to your cabins. He announces, his voice carrying on the cold air. Put on your life belts as a precaution. This is just a drill. Nothing to worry about. A drill. At midnight, in the middle of the Atlantic. You look at Padraig. He looks at you. Neither of you believes it. But you go. What else can you do? You're not crew. You don't know how ships work. If they say it's a drill, maybe it's a drill. Maybe this is normal. Maybe you're just being paranoid. Back below decks, the corridors are filling up. Passengers emerging from cabins, bleary-eyed and confused. Some are already wearing their life belts, the bulky white cork vests that were stored under their bunks. Others are still in night clothes, asking what's happening, why they've been woken. The stewards move through the crowd, calm and efficient. Just a precaution. Put on your life belts. Everything is fine. There's no danger. They're lying. You know they're lying. Or maybe they don't know themselves. Maybe they've been told to keep everyone calm while the officers figure out what to do. You reach your cabin. Margaret is already awake, already dressed, already struggling to get the life belts on her children. Little William is crying. Mary is silent, wide-eyed, clutching her piece of rope. What's happening? Margaret asks. Her voice is steady, but her hands are shaking. We hit something. Ice, I think. They're saying it's just a precaution. She looks at you. You don't say, but I don't believe them. You don't have to. Padraig finds his life belt. You find yours. The cork is stiff and cold. The straps confusing in the dim light. Takes you 3 tries to get it fastened right. Margaret finishes with the children and turns to you. Daniel, she says. My husband. He's forward with the other men. I need to find him. You think of the barriers. The gates that separate the single men from the families. The distance between the bow and the stern. All those corridors. All those stairs. I'll help you look. The 3 of you leave the cabin, you, Margaret with her kids, Padraig. The corridor is a river of people now, flowing in both directions. Everyone talking at once. English, Irish, Swedish, Finnish. A dozen languages overlapping into one noise of confusion and fear. A steward blocks your path at the foot of the main staircase. Women and children only, please. Wait here. We'll be moving you to the boat deck shortly. My husband is forward, Margaret says. I need to find him. I'm sorry, ma'am. The forward sections are being evacuated separately. You'll see him on deck. She doesn't believe him any more than you do. But what can she do? The steward is firm, polite, immovable. This is how it's done. Women and children first. Order maintained. Margaret's face crumples for just a second. Then she straightens, squares her shoulders, looks at you. Find him, she says. Tell him where we are. Tell him we're waiting. And then she's gone, swept up in the flow of women and children heading toward the boat deck. Little William on her hip, Mary clutching her skirt. You hope it's not the last time you see her. Come on, Padraig says. Let's find Daniel. You try to go forward down Scotland Road. But there are more stewards now. More barriers. Gates that were open during the day are closed now, manned by crew who won't let you pass. For your safety, please wait here. We'll direct you shortly. My cousin's husband is forward, Padraig argues. We need to find him. All passengers forward are being evacuated. You'll meet them on deck, but the gates are locked. How can they get out if the gates are locked? The steward's face flickers, a crack in the professional mask. The gates are being opened as needed, sir. Please remain calm. Everything is under control. Everything is under control. They keep saying it. Like if they say it enough times, it will become true. But shortly never comes. The minutes tick by. The crowd grows larger. People are pushing now, pressing against the barriers. Voices rising in anger and fear. A woman screams somewhere behind you. A child is crying. The stewards are losing control. You can see it happening. And slowly, terribly, you start to notice. The floor is no longer level. The ship is tilting forward. Subtle at first. Barely noticeable. But the longer you stand there, the more obvious it becomes. A water bottle rolls toward the bow. Loose items slide across a table someone set up. The whole world is shifting, degree by degree, toward the front of the ship, toward the iceberg wound, toward the water pouring in. Panic starts to spread hot and fast. People shove against the barriers. The stewards shout, trying to maintain calm, but their faces have changed. The masks are gone. They know something you don't, something bad. There's another way. A voice beside you, an older man, weathered face, one of the Scandinavians. Follow me. He leads a group of you through a side passage, through a door marked crew only, up a stairwell you've never seen before. The route is confusing, twisting, but he seems to know where he's going. Maybe he's been exploring. Maybe he's done this before. You emerge on a deck you don't recognize. Second-class territory, maybe. The carpets are thicker. The furniture is nicer. Passengers are milling about here, too, wearing life belts, looking lost. Up, the man says. Keep going up. The lifeboats are on the boat deck. You climb more stairs, more corridors, past staterooms with doors hanging open, belongings scattered, past confused stewards who let you pass without a challenge. The chaos is spreading. The order is breaking down. And then you're outside, on the boat deck, the highest point on the ship. The cold is unbelievable. It steals the breath from your lungs. Your fingers go numb instantly, but you barely notice, because you're looking at the bow, at the forward deck, at the place where the proud prow of the Titanic should be rising toward the stars. It's underwater. The front of the ship is underwater. You can see it clearly in the starlight. The bow submerged, the deck sloping down into the black, glassy sea. The ship is sinking. The unsinkable ship is sinking. For a moment, your mind refuses it. This can't be happening. This ship is 900 feet long, 45,000 tons of steel and British engineering. Ships like this don't sink. They told you it couldn't sink. But the water doesn't care what you were told. The water keeps rising. People are screaming, crying, praying. Officers are shouting orders, trying to load the lifeboats, trying to maintain some kind of control. But there aren't enough boats. You can see that immediately. There are hundreds of people up here and only a handful of boats being lowered. White shells dangling from the davits. You have to find Daniel. You promised Margaret. But Daniel is forward, in the section that's already flooding. If he's not up here already, if he didn't get out before the water came, you push through the crowd, looking for a familiar face, looking for Margaret, for Daniel, for Nora, for the Finnish man, for anyone. Podrick stays close, his hand gripping your arm so tight it hurts. You don't shake him off. You're grateful for the contact. A lifeboat is being lowered nearby. Women and children only, an officer barks, over and over. Women and children first. You see families torn apart, wives pulled from husbands, children wrenched from their fathers' arms. The screaming is constant now, a wall of sound. You find a spot near the railing and stop. Breathe. Try to think. The ship is sinking. You're going to die. No, stop. Think. The lifeboats. You have to get on a lifeboat. But the boats are for women and children. Men are being held back. The officers have pistols drawn, ready to shoot anyone who tries to rush the boats. This is how it ends. This is how 700 dreams die. On a cold night in the middle of the ocean, on a ship that was supposed to be unsinkable, but you're not dead yet. You're still breathing. The ship is still afloat, even if it's listing badly. There's time. There has to be time. Somewhere in the chaos, a band is playing. Actual musicians, up here on the deck, sawing away at their instruments like nothing is wrong. The music drifts across the screaming, strange and surreal. A hymn. Nearer, my God, to thee. You look out at the ocean. The lifeboats are rowing away from the ship. Tiny white shapes against the black water. Some of them are only half full. Room for more, but they're not coming back. They're afraid of being swamped. You can't blame them. You'd probably do the same. The deck lurches beneath your feet. The ship is settling faster now. The bow sinking, the stern rising. Soon there won't be a deck to stand on. Soon there will only be the water. Cold and dark and endless. You think about your mother, your father, the farm you'll never see again, the life you'll never live in America. All those dreams sinking with you into the Atlantic. But not yet. Not yet. You grab Padraig's arm. Come on. We're not dying here. You pull him toward the stern. The deck is tilting more steeply now. Walking uphill. That's what it feels like. Climbing a wooden hill that's getting steeper by the minute. People are sliding past you, losing their footing on the wet planks, tumbling toward the water that's creeping higher. The lights are still on. That's the strangest thing. All this chaos, all this death, and the electric lights are still blazing. The engineers must still be down there, keeping the power running, doing their jobs until the very end. You wonder if they know they're going to die. The stern rises as the bow sinks. Furniture breaks loose. Deck chairs tumble past like leaves in a storm. A piano from somewhere, God knows where, slides across the deck and smashes through a railing. You hold on to a railing. Padraig holds on to you. The angle gets worse. 40 degrees. 50. Your feet slip on the deck. And you're hanging now, suspended by your grip. The dark water rushing up below you. The ship groans. A deep, metallic shriek that comes from everywhere at once. Something inside the hull is breaking. Something massive. The lights flicker. Go out. Come back on. Flicker again. And then, the ship breaks. You feel it more than see it. A massive shudder. A crack like thunder. The deck beneath you lurches. And for a terrible moment, you're weightless. Falling. The world spinning. The stern drops back. Levels out for just a second. You slam against the deck, the impact driving the breath from your lungs. Padraig lands beside you, gasping. For a few seconds, you dare to hope. The stern is floating. The bow is gone, sunk. But the stern is floating. Maybe it will stay afloat. Maybe rescue will come. Maybe you'll survive. Then the stern begins to tilt again, rising. The bow section pulling it down from below. Still connected by cables or pipes or God knows what. The angle increases. 60 degrees. 70. People are falling now. Sliding down the deck. Screaming as they plunge into the black water. You can't hold on much longer. Your hands are numb. Your fingers won't obey. The railing is slipping from your grasp. Inch by inch. Cillian. Padraig's voice, barely audible. I can't hold on. Neither can you. Your grip fails. You slide down the deck, picking up speed. The wooden planks tearing at your clothes. And then there's nothing beneath you but air. And cold. And darkness. The fall into the Atlantic is a shock that stops the heart. Next, we hit the water. We'll feel the cold that kills in minutes. Fight for a piece of wreckage. And face the impossible choices of survival in a sea of dying people. The night is far from over. Subscribe now so you don't miss what happens in the water. You hit the water. The cold is beyond anything you've ever felt. Beyond pain. It's like being stabbed by 1,000 knives all at once, in every part of your body. Your lungs seize, your heart stutters in your chest. Every nerve screams in pure protest. 28 degrees Fahrenheit. That's what they'll say later. The water was 28 degrees. Below freezing. Salt water doesn't freeze as easy, but it's cold enough to kill you in minutes. Cold enough to stop your heart before you have time to drown. You can't breathe. That's the first thing. Your chest is locked, frozen, refusing to work. Your body is in shock, shutting down, trying to protect itself from a threat it was never built to survive. The gasp reflex hits you, a violent, involuntary spasm that forces the air out of your lungs and tries to force water in. You fight it, clamp your mouth shut, force yourself to be calm when every animal instinct is screaming at you to panic, to thrash, to die. Move. You have to move. You force your arms to work. Force your legs to kick. The life belt is doing its job. The cork vest is keeping your head above water. But floating isn't enough. You need to get out of this water. You need to find something to hold on to. You have minutes, maybe less. 15 at the outside, if you're lucky. If you're strong. If God is feeling merciful tonight. The water around you is chaos. People everywhere. Thrashing. Screaming. Grabbing at anything they can reach. Bodies bump against you in the darkness. Hands clutch at your life belt, your arms, your face. Desperate people doing desperate things. A woman's face looms up in front of yours, eyes wide with terror, mouth open in a silent scream. She grabs your shoulder, tries to climb onto you, to use you as a raft. You feel yourself being pushed under. You push her away. You have to. If you let her drag you under, you both die. Someone else grabs your ankle, pulls. You kick free. The guilt settles in your stomach like a stone, cold and heavy. But survival isn't pretty. Survival is ugly and selfish and cruel. Podrig, you shout, or try to shout. Your voice comes out a croak, barely louder than a whisper. The cold is in your throat now, stealing your breath and your voice and your strength. You can't see him. You can't see anything. Just the darkness and the churning water and the shapes of other people fighting to stay alive. The ship is gone, slipped beneath the surface while you were falling. The largest ship in the world vanished in seconds, leaving nothing but wreckage and bodies and a spreading pool of debris on the black water. Something bumps against your leg. Wood, piece of something. A door, maybe, or a section of deck. You grab it, pull yourself onto it half out of the water. Your chest is still in the sea, but your head and shoulders are above. And that's enough. That's something. The cold is killing you. You can feel it happening. Your fingers have stopped working. Your legs are numb. Your thoughts are slowing down, getting fuzzy and strange. Hypothermia. That's the word. Your body temperature is dropping faster than it can recover. Death by degrees. You think about your mother, your father, the farm in Cork you'll never see again, your sister in Boston, who doesn't know yet that her brother is dying in the middle of the Atlantic. You think about America, all those dreams, all those plans, the new life you were going to build. Gone now, sinking with the ship, freezing with your body. Around you, the screaming continues. Hundreds of voices crying out in the darkness, calling for help, calling for God, calling for their mothers. The sound is like nothing you've ever heard, like nothing you ever want to hear again. And then, slowly, the screaming stops, not all at once, one voice at a time, the cold taking them, the water claiming them. The silence spreads across the sea like a blanket, until there's nothing left but the lapping of waves and the creak of floating wood. You're still alive. You don't know how. You don't know why. But you're still alive. And you're going to stay alive because you promised your mother you'd write to her from New York, and you're damn well going to keep that promise. Time passes. You don't know how much. The stars will overhead, indifferent. The cold gnaws at you, patient and relentless. You stop shivering at some point. That's bad. You know that means your body has given up trying to warm itself. The end is close, but you don't give up. You can't. Not yet. A voice in the darkness, calling out. Someone else still alive, still fighting. Here, you try to shout. Over here. Your voice is a whisper, but somehow they hear you, or maybe they just drift close by accident. A shape in the darkness, clinging to a piece of wreckage, just like you. A familiar shape. Padraig. Cillian. His voice is weak, broken, but alive. I thought you were gone. Not yet. You reach for him. Your fingers don't work, but you manage to hook your arm around his life belt. Pull him closer. There's a length of rope tangled on your piece of wood. You fumble with numb hands, lashing the two of you together. If one of you goes under, the other will know. If one of you dies, the other won't be alone. You wait. The cold is inside you now. Part of you. You've stopped feeling it as pain. It's just there. Like the darkness. Like the silence. A fact of existence. Something to endure. Your body has stopped shivering. You know what that means. Read it somewhere. Heard it from someone. When you stop shivering, your body has given up. The hypothermia is winning. Your core temperature is dropping degree by degree. Soon your heart will slow. Your thoughts will fade. And you'll just slip away into the darkness. But not yet. Not yet. You press closer to Padraig. Share what little warmth you have left. His breathing is shallow, ragged, but steady. He's alive. You're both alive. For now, that has to be enough. You think about the party just a few hours ago. Dancing and laughing and drinking whiskey while the band played. Eugene Daly's pipes wailing out jigs and reels. The Swedish girl whose name you never learned. The Italians doing their wild dance. All that joy, and now most of them are dead. Floating in the water around you. Sinking to the bottom of the ocean 2 miles down to rest until the end of time. You think about Margaret, her children. Did they make it to a lifeboat? Are they out there somewhere safe and warm while you freeze? You hope so. You pray so. Little William and Mary deserve to grow up. You think about Daniel, Margaret's husband. Forward with the other men when the ship went down. Did he get out? Did anyone get out from that section? The water came in so fast. The gates were closed. You'll probably never know. Lights, far away, moving across the water. At first, you think you're imagining it. Your mind playing tricks, creating hope where there is none. But Padraig sees it too. Points with a hand that won't stop shaking. Boats, he whispers. Lifeboats. They're coming back. Some of them, at least. Looking for survivors. Looking for anyone still alive in this graveyard of floating bodies. You try to shout. Nothing comes out. You try to wave. Your arm won't cooperate. All you can do is wait. And hope. And pray that they see you. That they're close enough. That they care enough to stop. The light gets closer. Voices now. People calling out, asking if anyone's alive. You try to answer. A sound comes out of your mouth, but you don't recognize it as your voice. Something broken. Something barely human. But they hear you. Hands reach down. Grab your life belt. Pull you up, out of the water, into a boat that rocks dangerously under the weight of too many survivors. You don't remember climbing in. You don't remember anything except the sudden absence of the cold water. The rough wool of a blanket being wrapped around your shoulders. The face of a stranger looking down at you with concern. And pity. Someone is rubbing your arms, your legs, trying to bring the blood back. It hurts. Everything hurts. The return of feeling is almost worse than the numbness. Your fingers and toes are on fire, burning with the cold that's trapped inside them. Padraig is beside you, alive, barely, but alive. Someone is pouring something into his mouth. Whiskey, maybe, something to fight the cold from the inside. You feel liquid at your own lips. You drink without thinking. The burn in your throat is the first warm thing you've felt in hours. You're in lifeboat 14, Officer Lowe's boat. You'll learn that later. He went back. Most of the boats didn't. Most rowed away from the screaming and never returned. But Lowe went back, transferred his passengers to other boats, and returned to pull survivors from the water. Not many. By the time he got there, most were already dead. But some. A few. Enough to matter. Right now, you don't know any of that. You don't know anything except that you're not in the water anymore. You're not going to freeze to death tonight. Against all odds. Against all logic. Against everything the cold Atlantic tried to do to you, you're going to live. The boat is full of other survivors. Some conscious, some not. A few are crying. Most are silent, staring at nothing, their faces blank with shock. You understand. You feel the same way, like something inside you is broken, something that might never heal. The rowing resumes, oars dipping into the black water, pulling you away from the wreck site, away from the floating bodies, away from the silence where the screaming used to be. Behind you, the Atlantic stretches empty to the horizon. No trace of the ship that was supposed to be unsinkable. No sign of the 700 dreams that sank with her. Just water, and darkness, and stars indifferent to everything that's happened. You survived. You don't know how. You don't know why. But you survived. And now you have to figure out what that means. How to keep living when so many others died. How to carry the weight of this night for the rest of your life. Light, that's what wakes you. A gray, thin light filtering through your eyelids. Dawn. You made it to dawn. You open your eyes and for a long, confused moment you don't know where you are. The sky above is pale, washed out, streaked with pink at the edges. The air is bitterly cold. Your body aches in ways you didn't know were possible. Then you remember. The ship, the water, the cold that tried to kill you. You sit up, or try to. Your muscles scream. Everything is stiff, sore, wrong. But you manage it, pulling yourself upright against the side of the lifeboat. The ocean stretches out around you in every direction. Calm now, almost peaceful, like nothing happened here. Like 1,500 people didn't die in this water just a few hours ago. And the ice. God, the ice. It's everywhere. Icebergs scattered across the horizon like mountains. Some of them huge, towering things. Others smaller. The rising sun catches them and they glow. Pink and gold and white. Beautiful. Terrible. One of those killed the ship. One of those killed all those people. Padraig is beside you, alive barely. His face is pale, his lips tinged blue, but he's breathing. His eyes flutter open. Meet yours. Neither of you speaks. What is there to say? The other survivors in the boat are stirring. Some of them, others don't move at all. Died in the night, probably. The cold finishing what the water started. A woman near the bow is weeping, cradling something against her chest. A child's coat. Just the coat. The child isn't there. You look away. On the horizon, something moves. A shape, dark against the pale sky. A ship. Someone else sees it. Points. Cries out. Others look up. Their hollow eyes suddenly bright with something that might be hope. The shape gets larger. Closer. You can see the smoke from its funnel now. A dark smear against the dawn. A green flare shoots up from the ship's deck. Then another. Signals. They're coming. Help is coming. The woman with the child's coat stops weeping, stares at the approaching ship with an expression you can't read. Relief, maybe, or maybe just the knowledge that rescue won't bring back what she's lost. The ship is called Carpathia. You'll learn that later. A Cunard liner, not White Star. Smaller than Titanic. Less fancy. But right now, it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. Takes hours. The Carpathia has to navigate through the same ice field that killed Titanic. Moving slowly, carefully, every iceberg a reminder. But it gets there. It reaches you, and one by one the lifeboats row toward it. Your boat is one of the last. By the time you reach the Carpathia side, the sun is fully up. The ship's hull rises above you like a cliff. Rope ladders hang down. Doorways have been opened near the waterline. Crew members lean out, reaching down to help. Getting aboard is harder than it should be. Your hands don't work. Your legs are weak, shaky. But the crew is patient. They've been doing this for hours. They know how to handle people who've spent the night in freezing water, waiting to die. Hands grab you, pull you up, guide you through a doorway into the warmth of the ship's interior. The heat hits you like a wall. Your skin prickles. Your eyes water. After hours in the cold, ordinary room temperature feels like standing next to a roaring fire. Someone wraps a blanket around your shoulders. Someone else presses a cup into your hands. Hot coffee. You drink it without thinking. The heat spreads through your chest, your stomach, thawing you from the inside. Podrick is beside you, still alive, still breathing. You made it, both of you, somehow, against all odds. You made it. The Carpathia's passengers have given up their cabins, their clothes, their food, everything. They're sharing with the survivors. A woman your mother's age takes your arm, leads you to a chair, sits you down, brings you soup and bread and another blanket. Her eyes are kind. She doesn't ask questions, doesn't pry, just takes care of you like you're her own son. You eat the first food you've had since dinner on Titanic. Tastes like nothing. Everything tastes like nothing right now. But you eat anyway, because your body needs it, because you're alive and you need to stay that way. The morning passes in a blur. More survivors brought aboard. People searching for loved ones, calling out names, hoping for answers that usually don't come. Sometimes there are reunions. A husband finding his wife. A mother finding her children. Those moments are bright spots in all the grief. Proof that some stories have happy endings. Most don't. You look for Margaret. For William and Mary. You search the decks, the dining rooms, the makeshift medical areas where doctors are treating survivors for frostbite and shock. You ask everyone you see, have you seen a woman with 2 children? Irish. From County Galway. A boy about 7, full of energy. A girl younger, quiet, always holding a piece of rope. Nobody knows. Nobody remembers. There were so many women with children. So many boats, so much chaos. They might be here somewhere. They might not. You never find them. Daniel, Margaret's husband, isn't among the survivors either. The men in the forward section. The ones who saw the water flooding in, who tried to find their way through corridors they'd never walked before, through gates that may or may not have been locked. Most of them didn't make it. The statistics will show that later. Third-class men had the worst survival rate of anyone on the ship. Less than 1 in 6 made it off alive. The Carpathia doesn't linger at the wreck site. Once the last lifeboat is aboard, Captain Rostron turns the ship toward New York. 3 days away. 3 days to process what happened. 3 days to grieve. You spend most of that time on deck, staring at the ocean, not thinking about anything in particular. Just existing, breathing, being alive when so many others aren't. Podrick stays close. Neither of you talks much. There's nothing to say that the silence doesn't say better. Other survivors gather in small groups, sharing stories, sharing grief. Some of them are angry, talking about the lifeboats that rode away half empty, the crew members who wouldn't let people through, the gates that were closed when they should have been open. You listen but don't join in. Anger takes energy you don't have right now. On the third day, you see New York. The Statue of Liberty rises out of the harbor, green and distant, holding her torch, the symbol of everything you came here for. Freedom, opportunity, a new life. You thought you'd feel something when you saw it. Joy, relief. Instead, you feel nothing. Just tired. Just empty. Just glad the journey is over. The Carpathia docks at night. In the rain. Thousands of people are waiting at the pier. Families of passengers hoping their loved ones survived. Reporters looking for stories. Curious onlookers who want to see the survivors of the famous disaster. The electric lights on the pier are blinding after 3 days at sea. First class gets off first. Of course they do. Even after everything, they get priority. Second class follows. Then finally third class. But not right away. Third class has to wait while immigration officials check their papers. Make sure they're healthy. Make sure they're not carrying diseases. Make sure they're fit to enter the country. Takes hours. You sit in the Carpathia's dining room, wrapped in borrowed clothes, waiting for a man with a clipboard to decide whether you're allowed to set foot on American soil. The same country you almost died trying to reach. The same country that built a statue promising to welcome the tired, the poor, the huddled masses. That country wants to make sure you're not too tired, too poor, too huddled before they let you in. They let you in eventually, around midnight, nearly 3 hours after the first-class passengers walked off into the arms of their waiting families. You step onto the pier in the rain, 19 years old, no money, no belongings except the clothes on your back, and nobody waiting for you, but you're alive. That has to count for something. Before we go any further into this story, I need to ask you for a quick favor. If this journey from the deep ocean to the streets of New York is hitting you right in the chest, do me a solid and hit that subscribe button. It's the single best way to make sure you don't miss a single part of what happens next. And if you're up for it, drop a comment and let me know. What would you have done first? Stepping off that ship into a brand new country with absolutely nothing? Alright, let's get back to it. The rain on the New York pier is a cold, needling drizzle. It soaks through the borrowed coat they gave you on the Carpathia in minutes. You stand there, shivering, surrounded by chaos. The noise is overwhelming after the silent horror of the open ocean and the quiet grief of the rescue ship. Reporters shout questions. Flashing cameras pop like little explosions of light. Families scream names into the crowd. Police try to keep some kind of order. You have no luggage, no trunk, no bag. Everything you owned in the world, your spare shirt, your family photo, your mother's bottle of holy water, is 2 miles down at the bottom of the Atlantic. All you have is your life, and Padraig's life, standing dumbly beside you. For a long minute, you just stand there, letting the rain hit your face, feeling the solid, unmoving ground beneath your feet. You're on land. You're in America. A man in a uniform with a badge herds you and a group of other third-class survivors. A bedraggled, shell-shocked bunch, away from the main crowd, toward a set of large, ugly buildings on the edge of the water. Ellis Island. But you're not going through the Great Hall with the hopeful masses. You're being funneled into a side area, a kind of medical and administrative purgatory for shipwreck survivors. The process is a blur of harsh electric light, forms you don't understand, and officials with tired, impatient faces. They check you for signs of contagious disease again. They ask your name, your destination, how much money you have. Cillian Brennan, Boston. I have nothing. The clerk doesn't look up. He stamps a form. The relief committees are in the next room. They'll give you a meal ticket and a voucher for a night's lodging. Next, a relief committee. The words feel like charity, and they burn a little. But your stomach is a hollow pit, and the thought of a rail bed, even for one night, is a powerful lure. In the next room, women from various charitable societies sit behind tables. Their kinder, one, from the Irish Immigrant Society, sees your name and her eyes soften. She presses a ticket for a nearby boarding house into your hand, along with a slip for a hot meal at a soup kitchen a few blocks away. "God bless you, son," she says. "I'm sorry for your loss." Your loss. The words are too small, too tidy, for what has been lost. You just nod. Padraig gets the same. The two of you stumble back out into the rainy night, following scribbled directions. The city is a monster of noise and light and smell. The streets are paved, not dirt. Horseless carriages, automobiles, putter past, terrifying and loud. Buildings stretch up so high you have to crane your neck to see the top. It's nothing like the quiet, green hills of Cork. It's overwhelming, exhausting. The boarding house is a grim, gray building that smells of cabbage and disinfectant. The man at the desk takes your voucher without a word and points you up a narrow staircase to a room no bigger than your cabin on the Titanic. This time, there are 6 iron-framed beds, and you and Padraig share one. You don't care. You're asleep almost before your head hits the thin pillow. The next few days are a numb routine of survival. You use the last of your meal tickets. You stand in lines for hours at the relief offices, filling out more forms, telling your story over and over to clerks who write it down without looking at you. You are now a statistic, a Titanic survivor, 3rd class. It's your defining feature. The newspapers are full of the story. Headlines scream about heroism and tragedy. They talk about the millionaires and the brave officers and the band that played on. You scan the lists of survivors, your heart pounding, looking for the names Brennan, Margaret, Daniel, William, Mary. You don't find them. You find a M. Brennan on one list, but it's a man from Queenstown. Your cabin mate, your temporary family, are just gone, swallowed by the same silence that took the ship. One afternoon, you and Padraig find yourselves outside the White Star Line offices. A crowd of survivors and angry relatives is gathered. Inside, they're supposedly handing out emergency relief funds, a pittance, £5 maybe, to tide you over. The line moves slowly. When you finally get to the front, a man behind a desk asks for your ticket number. You don't have a ticket. It's at the bottom of the ocean. "No ticket, no compensation," he says flatly. "Next." "But I was on the ship," Padraig argues, his voice rising. "We nearly died. Policy is policy. We must have proof." "Next." You're shoved aside. The rage that floods you is hot and sudden. You lost everything to their unsinkable ship, and they won't even give you £5 because you can't produce a piece of paper that's now fish food. You see it in the faces of the other 3rd-class survivors around you, the same dawning understanding. The rules are different for you. You were cargo on the way over, and you're a problem now that you're here. That night, in the grim boarding house, you have your first real talk with Padraig. The shock is wearing off, replaced by a cold, hard practicality. "We can't stay here," you say. "These vouchers run out tomorrow. We need work." Padraig nods. He looks older. "Boston, Mary. She's expecting us. You'd almost forgotten. Your sister, Mary. Your original destination. A thread of your old life, still intact. You write her a short, clumsy letter with borrowed paper, telling her you're alive, you're in New York, you're coming. You have no money for a train ticket, so you'll have to find work here first. The next morning, you hit the streets in earnest. You look for labor, construction sites, docks, warehouses. You're strong and young and willing. But everywhere you go, you hear the same thing. No Irish. Position filled. We're not hiring. Your accent, your clothes, your empty hands. They mark you as fresh off the boat. And not just any boat. The boat. Word gets around. Sometimes you see it in a foreman's eyes. A flicker of pity, quickly masked by annoyance. You're not just an immigrant. You're a sad story. People don't know what to do with you. After 3 days of nothing, a foreman on a dockyard crew, a grizzled Italian man named Antonio, takes pity. Or maybe he just needs a strong back. You work today, I pay you for today. No promises for tomorrow. You don't work hard, you don't come back. You and Padraig both take the offer. The work is brutal. Hauling crates, stacking lumber, your muscles screaming in protest after days of inactivity and trauma. But it feels good. Feels real. At the end of the day, Antonio hands each of you $1.50 in grimy coins. It's the first money you've earned in America. Feels like a fortune. You buy a proper meal, a bowl of stew and thick bread, and eat it sitting on the curb watching the city go by. It's the best thing you've ever tasted. That night, back in the room you've managed to rent for a week with your dock earnings, Padraig is quiet. Finally, he says, "I'm not going to Boston." You stare at him. "The work is here," he says, not meeting your eyes. Antonio says he can get me on steady. There's a room above a tavern in Brooklyn I can share. It's a start. You understand. The dream you shared, arriving together at Mary's door in Boston, sank with the Titanic. A new, harder, more solitary dream has to be built from the wreckage. And sometimes you build it apart. "All right," you say. The word is heavy. "You'll go to Mary?" he asks. "I have to." A week later, you've scraped together enough for a cheap train ticket to Boston. You stand with Padraig outside the bustling station. You shake hands like men, like your father did with you. No speeches, no big emotion. Right when you're settled, you say, "I will. You too." And then you turn and walk into the station, toward your gate, toward another journey. You don't look back. You can't. You board the train, a dusty, loud thing. You find a seat by a grimy window. As the train pulls out of the station, clattering through the sprawling outskirts of New York, you finally let yourself cry. Silent tears for everything and everyone left behind. In Ireland, in the water, and now on a rainy street in New York. You're alone, but you're moving forward. The train ride to Boston is a jolting, smoky, numb haze. You stare out the window at America that rushes by. Factories with belching stacks, endless woods, small towns with white church steeples. It's green like Ireland, but the shape of the land is all wrong. The trees are different. The light is different. Everything feels too big, too spread out, too empty, and yet somehow crowded at the same time. You sleep fitfully, your head against the cold glass, jerking awake from dreams of dark water and screaming. The other passengers glance at you, at your worn, ill-fitting clothes, and look away. You are a ghost on this train, a piece of last week's bad news traveling north. When you finally stumble out at South Station in Boston, the noise hits you all over again. It's a different noise than New York, sharper, somehow, with the clang of streetcars and the thick, tangy smell of the sea harbor. You have the address for the house where Mary works as a live-in domestic, scribbled on a piece of paper that's now soft and frayed from being held in a sweaty palm. You ask directions from a newspaper boy, his Boston accent so clipped and fast you have to ask him twice. You walk, and walk, your one small bag, bought with dock earnings and containing a second-hand shirt, socks, and little else, feels heavier with every block. The house is in a neighborhood called South Boston. The buildings are tall and narrow, pressed together like teeth. They're made of brick and wood, with short stoops of stairs leading to the front doors. It looks solid, permanent, nothing like your cottage at home. You stand across the street for a long time just looking. This is it, the destination, the place you were sailing toward when the world ended. Your heart is pounding so hard you can feel it in your throat. Finally, you cross the street and climb the steps. You lift the brass knocker and let it fall. The sound is terribly loud in the quiet afternoon. After a moment, the door is opened not by Mary, but by an older woman in a severe black dress with a white apron. The housekeeper. She looks you up and down, her expression not unkind, but wary. Yes, I'm here to see Mary Brennan. I'm her brother, Cillian. Her face changes. The wariness melts into something else. Pity, shock, a dawning horror. "Oh, my lord," she whispers. "You're the one from the... Come in. Wait here." She leaves you standing in a tiled foyer that smells of lemon polish and cooked meat. The house is quiet, hushed. You can hear distant clocks ticking. You feel enormous and dirty and out of place. Then there are footsteps, quick and light, rushing down a hallway. And there she is, Mary. She looks older than you remember, thinner. Her face, which always held a laugh, is pale and tight with worry. She stops short when she sees you, her hand flying to her mouth. For a second, she just stares, as if you're an apparition. "Cillian," her voice is a thread. "It's me, Mary." And then she's across the floor, her arms around you, holding on so tight you can barely breathe. She's crying, great heaving sobs into your shoulder. They said, "The lists were so confused. We didn't know we prayed." You hold her, patting her back awkwardly, your own eyes dry and burning. You've used up all your tears on the train. She pulls back, holding your face in her hands, looking at you as if to make sure you're real. You're alive. You're really here. Then the practical sister in her takes over. Your skin and bone. Come into the kitchen. You must be starving. She leads you through a green baize door into the servant's domain. A warm, steamy kitchen. The housekeeper gives you a nod and discreetly leaves. Mary sits you at a heavy wooden table and starts pulling food from a larder. Bread, cold chicken, cheese, a bowl of stew from the hearth. She sets it all in front of you and then just sits, watching you eat as if the act of feeding you is proof of your existence. Between bites, the story comes out in broken pieces. You tell her about the ship, the party, the shudder, the tilt. You leave out the worst of it. The screams in the water, the cold, the faces of the dead. You say, "Padraig is safe. He's in New York. He found work." You don't say you're now alone. She listens, her face a mask of anguish. When you finish, there's a long silence. The clock on the wall ticks. "The family here, they've been very kind," she says finally, twisting her apron in her hands. "They let me follow the news in the papers. But Cillian, I don't have much. My wages, I've been sending most of it home, and what was saved for your passage is gone." You nod. You knew this. "I need to work. I can find work." She looks at you with such sorrow. "It's not like home, Cillian. It's not like they said in the letters. It's hard. They don't want us. Not really. Not unless we're willing to break our backs for pennies." "I'm willing," you say, and the hardness in your own voice surprises you. She arranges for you to stay that night in a cramped, clean room in the attic usually used for storage. It's more than you've had in weeks. The next morning, she introduces you to the grocer down the street, an Irishman named Mr. Doyle, who gives you a job sweeping floors and hauling sacks of flour in exchange for a few coins and a loaf of day-old bread. It's a start. Before we step into the fight, I've got to ask, if you're feeling that fire in your chest right now, that need to see what happens when someone with nothing decides to stand up to the guys with everything. then you need to be here. Hit that subscribe button. Is how you make sure you don't miss a moment of what comes next. And tell me in the comments, what would you do? Take the money and try to disappear, or step into the ring? Alright, back to the story. The lawyer's card sits on the small table in Mary's attic room like a live coal. You pick it up, put it down, turn it over. Ferguson and Lowe, attorneys at law. 43 State Street. Make them pay. The words are a magnet and a threat all at once. For weeks, you've been trying to forget, to bury the memories under a mountain of hard work and simple exhaustion. The thought of digging it all up, of saying it out loud in a room full of strangers, your stomach clenches. You can still smell the cold salt air, hear the groan of the ship. You see the faces in the water when you close your eyes. But you also see the man at the White Star office in New York. No ticket, no compensation. Next, you see the half-empty lifeboats rowing away. You see the gates on Scotland Road. You think of Daniel forward with the men. You think of Margaret and the children, their fate unknown. You think of the Finnish man, Nora from Galway, the Swedish newlyweds, all of them just gone. And the world moved on to the next headline. A quiet, simmering anger has been your constant companion since the pier. Now this card gives it a direction. You don't tell Mary about it. Not at first. She worries enough. Instead, on your next half day from the construction site, you wash as best you can, put on your least worn shirt, and walk to State Street. The buildings here are temples of stone and glass, towering over you. Men in fine suits stride purposefully. You feel like a ghost again, a piece of dirt tracked in from a different world. The law office is on the 3rd floor. The waiting room is quiet, paneled in dark wood. A secretary with spectacles looks up, her expression politely questioning. "I'm here to see Mr. Lowe," you say, your voice too loud in the hush. About the Titanic." Her eyes change. "Your name, Cillian Brennan." She disappears through a door. A minute later, she waves you in. Mr. Lowe isn't what you expected. He's young, maybe 30, with sharp eyes and an energetic manner. His desk is buried in papers and files. He stands, shakes your hand firmly, and gestures to a chair. "Mr. Brennan, thank you for coming. I represent a group of survivors and families." He begins, getting right to it. "We are preparing a civil action against the White Star Line. We believe their negligence, the speed in an ice field, the lack of sufficient lifeboats, the failure to properly conduct a lifeboat drill, directly caused this disaster. And we believe the steerage passengers were particularly disadvantaged in the evacuation." He talks fast, his words legal and polished. You just listen, your hands folded in your lap. "The British inquiry was a whitewash," he continues, leaning forward. "They protected the company. They barely acknowledged the third-class experience. But here, under American law, we have a chance. A real chance. But we need witnesses. We need people who were there, down in the bowels of the ship, to tell the truth about what happened. The locked gates, the confused directions, the separation of families." He looks at you, his gaze intense. "That's where you come in, Mr. Brennan, if you're willing." "What would I have to do?" you ask, your throat dry. "Tell your story. To me first. Then, if it comes to it, in a deposition. Possibly in a courtroom. You would need to describe everything you saw and heard from the moment of the collision until you reached the Carpathia. In detail." The room feels suddenly airless. In detail. That means the screaming, the cold, the faces. "Why would they listen to me?" you say quietly. "I'm nobody." "Because you're not nobody," Lowe says, his voice dropping. "You are the proof. The statistics are one thing. A living, breathing man telling a judge and a jury exactly how the company's failures felt. That's something else entirely. That changes things. He pauses, then adds practically, "There would be a stipend for your time to cover lost wages. It wouldn't be a fortune, but it would be something." Money. The word is ugly in this context, but it's real. You think of the blisters on your hands, the ache in your back, the few coins left in your pocket. "I need to think about it," you say, standing up. "Of course," Lo says, handing you another card. "But don't think too long. The company's lawyers are working day and night to make this all go away. Silence is what they're counting on." You walk back out into the Boston afternoon, the city noise crashing over you. For days you're torn. The thought of reliving it is a kind of torture. But the thought of staying silent, of letting White Star walk away clean while you sweep floors for the rest of your life, that feels like a betrayal. A betrayal of Daniel, of Margaret, of the Finnish man who shared your table, of all the ones who didn't make it to tell their own story. One evening, you finally tell Mary. You show her the card. She listens, her face growing pale. When you finish, she's silent for a long time, staring at her hands. "They'll try to break you, Cillian," she says softly. "Rich men's lawyers. They'll say you're confused, that you're lying for money. They'll make you feel small." "I know, but..." She looks up, her eyes fierce with a sudden, tearful pride. "But Dad didn't raise us to be quiet when something's wrong. He didn't send you across an ocean to be stepped on. If you have a chance to speak for those who can't." She takes your hand. "You have to do it." Her words settle it. The next day, you go back to State Street. "I'll do it," you tell Mr. Lowe. The following week, you sit in the same office, but now with a stenographer in the corner, her fingers poised over a strange machine. Lowe asks questions, calmly, methodically, and you talk. You start at the beginning, the feeling of the shutter, the ice on the deck. You describe the closed gates, the steward saying, "Wait here," the growing tilt of the floor. You talk about the struggle to find Daniel, the crush on the stairs, the sight of the bow underwater. You talk for hours. Your voice grows hoarse. Sometimes you have to stop to look out the window to get a grip on yourself. The stenographer's machine clicks and clacks, turning your memories, your nightmares, into a formal legal transcript. When you describe the water, the cold, the screams fading into silence, Lowe gently says, "That's enough for today." You leave feeling hollowed out, scraped raw, but also, for the first time, strangely light. You have spoken the truth. You have put it on the record. A month later, a letter arrives at Mary's address. It's a summons. White Star's lawyers, in response to the lawsuits, are taking depositions. They want to hear from you themselves. The game is on. The feeling in the room is different this time. It's not in Mr. Lowe's busy, friendly office. You're in a larger, colder room in a different building downtown. The air smells of old wood and ambition. Mr. Lowe is with you, sitting at your left, a stack of papers in front of him. He gives you a tight, reassuring nod. Across the wide, polished table sit two men, White Star's lawyers. They're older than Lowe. Their suits are darker, finer, and they wear them like armor. They don't smile. One of them, a man with silver hair and icy blue eyes named Mr. Wickerson, does all the talking. The other just watches, his gaze like a weight. A court reporter sits off to the side, ready to capture every word. Wickerson begins politely enough. He confirms your name, your age, your passage on the Titanic. His voice is calm, measured, almost bored. Then he begins. "Now, Mr. Brennan, you claim in your earlier statement that you encountered locked gates in the third-class areas. Is that correct? They weren't just locked. They were being guarded by stewards. They wouldn't let us pass." "Wouldn't let you pass," he repeats, writing a note. "For your safety, I presume? To prevent a panic?" They said that. but the water was coming in. We needed to get up. You felt you needed to get up, but the crew, with their training and knowledge of the ship's safety protocols, felt it was safer for you to remain in an organized area. Correct. He's twisting it, making reasoning sound like obstruction. It didn't feel safe. You say, your voice hardening. Feelings are not facts, Mr. Brennan. Let's talk facts. Can you point to this gate or that gate on a deck plan of the ship? You hesitate. No, I didn't have a map. It was a corridor. They all looked the same. I see. So you cannot say with certainty which barriers were in place, only that there were barriers. They were there. They kept us back. He moves on smoothly. You describe a great deal of confusion, noise, panic. In such a state, is it possible your memory of events, of who said what, of what was open or closed, might be imperfect? I remember what I saw. Your hands are clenched under the table. Of course. Now, regarding the lifeboats, you assert they were lowered half full. Some of them were, yes, I saw it. From your position on the deck, could you see into each lifeboat to accurately count the occupants? Your face grows warm. Not into every one, no, but you could see there was space. People were calling for them to come back. People were calling. Were you calling, Mr. Brennan? The question is a trap. I was trying to survive. So your focus was on your own survival, not on a precise head count of the lifeboats. Understandable. He makes another note, the scratch of his pen loud in the quiet room. Let's discuss the famous iceberg. You say you saw it after the fact, correct? A white shape in the distance. Yes, but you did not see the impact itself. No, so you cannot say with certainty what the ship struck or the nature of the damage. The officers said it was ice. There was ice on the deck. Ice on the deck in the North Atlantic in April is not uncommon, Mr. Brennan. It proves nothing about the severity of any impact. He shifts in his chair. Now, you are seeking financial compensation from the White Star Line for your ordeal. Mr. Lowe finally speaks, his voice sharp. Objection. The purpose of this deposition is to establish facts, not to speculate on my client's motives. Wickerson offers a thin smile. I'm merely establishing context. Mr. Brennan, is it true that since your arrival, you have struggled to find steady employment? The question is a low blow. It has nothing to do with the sinking and everything to do with painting you as desperate. A liar for hire. I've worked. You say, your jaw tight, but not steadily. And the stipend offered by Mr. Lowe's firm would be of significant help to you, would it not? I'm here to tell what happened. The anger is a hot coal in your chest now. And we appreciate that. We simply want to ensure the testimony is uncolored. He leans back, studying you. Your story is one of great drama. Chaos, locked gates, negligence. It's the kind of story that plays very well in the newspapers. The kind that might sway a jury. But is it the whole story? Or is it the story of a frightened young man? In a situation he didn't understand, whose memory has been shaped by others telling him what he should have seen. He's not just questioning your facts. He's questioning you, your mind, your integrity. I know what I saw. You say again, but it sounds weak even to you. Do you? Wickerson's voice is soft now, almost pitying. Or do you know what you've been told to see? The human mind is a fragile thing, Mr. Brennan, especially after a trauma. It fills in gaps, creates narratives. It listens to lawyers and newspapermen. He lets that hang in the air. The room is silent except for the faint click of the stenographer's machine. He has taken your truth and sanded down the edges, poked holes in it, suggested it's a story you've been sold. He's made you feel small, confused, and greedy, all without raising his voice. The deposition drags on for another hour. He asks about tiny, impossible details, the exact words a steward used, the color of a life belt, the time on a clock you never looked at. Each question is designed to highlight what you don't know, to make your central, horrible truth seem shaky and unreliable. When it's finally over, you walk out into the hallway feeling gutted. The righteous fire you carried in here has been smothered under a blanket of cool, legal doubt. Lowe puts a hand on your shoulder. "You did well," he says, but his face is grim. That's how they play. They can't fight the disaster, so they fight the witness. They make it about you, not the facts. "He made me sound like a fool." You mutter, your ears still burning. "He made you sound human," which you are. A jury will see that. They won't see a perfect robot with a perfect memory. They'll see a young man who went through hell. And they'll believe you. You want to believe him. But the confidence you felt after speaking to Lowe the first time is gone, replaced by a cold dread. This is the machine you're up against. A machine that grinds down truth into dust. You're just one piece of grain. Can you really hope to clog the gears? The weeks after the deposition fold into a strange, double life. By day, you are Cillian the laborer. Your world is the grit of the construction site, the bite of the wind off the harbor, the crude jokes and shared exhaustion of the work gang. Your hands are permanently stained. Your muscles ache with a familiar, honest pain. You earn your bread by the sweat of your brow, just as your father did. In this world, you are nobody special. You are just another strong back, another Irish accent, another greenhorn trying to carve out a few feet of space in America. You prefer it this way. The work is simple. It demands your body, not your memories. But at night, and on the occasional afternoon when Mr. Lowe summons you, you are Cillian the witness. Your world becomes one of paper and ink, of low, serious voices in paneled rooms. You review transcripts. You are prepped for possible questions. Lowe's young associates ask you to repeat your story over and over, looking for inconsistencies, helping you firm up the details that Wickerson tried to blur. Remember, you're not on trial. They tell you. The ship is, but it doesn't feel that way. Every meeting feels like a test you're terrified of failing. The two worlds bleed into each other in ugly ways. You lose a half-day's pay to meet with Lowe, and your foreman grumbles, his sympathy for your troubles wearing thin. At the site, some of the men have heard whispers. "You're the fella suing the steamship company, ain't? One asks, not unkindly. Another, older and more cynical, spits into the dust. "Waste of time. Them rich fellas stick together. You'll end up with nothing but a headache." Their words echo your own deepest fears. The legal process is a glacier, slow, cold, and crushing in its indifference. Letters go back and forth between the lawyers. Dates are set and postponed. The White Star legal team employs every delay, every procedural trick in the book. They are playing a long game, betting that survivors like you will run out of money, out of patience, out of hope. They are betting you will settle for a pittance just to make it stop. One evening, a plain envelope arrives for you at Mary's. It's not from Lowe. It's from a firm you don't recognize. Inside, on crisp letterhead, is a short, blunt offer. It is a settlement proposal from the White Star Line. The amount is a few $100s. For them, it's pocket change. For you, it's a small fortune. It could mean a better room, steady food for months, a chance to breathe. The letter states that accepting the offer would resolve all matters and require your complete confidentiality. They are buying your silence. You sit on the edge of your cot in the attic, the paper trembling in your hand. The number swims in front of your eyes. It is so desperately tempting. You think of the foreman's sneer, the lawyer's pitying gaze, the endless, draining fight. You could take the money. You could walk away. You could try to bury the past for good. Mary finds you there. She reads the letter over your shoulder, her hand coming to rest on your shoulder. She doesn't say anything for a long time. It's more than Da ever saw in a year. You finally say, your voice hollow. It is, she agrees softly. I'm so tired, Mary. I know you are. You look up at her. What would Da do? She sits beside you, takes the letter, and looks at it not with desire, but with contempt. He sold the good cow to give you a chance, she says. He didn't do that so you could be bought off by the same people who put you in the water. She folds the letter once, precisely, and hands it back. This isn't a gift, Cillian. It's a bribe. It's them saying your story, and the stories of everyone who didn't make it, is worth this little. She pinches her fingers together. And not a penny more. Her words are a spark on dry tinder. The fatigue is still there, but it's suddenly welded to a hardened resolve. The offer isn't a lifeline. It's an insult. It confirms everything Wickerson's sneering deposition implied. You are a nuisance to be managed, a cost to be calculated. The next day, you bring the letter to Mr. Lowe. His face darkens as he reads it. It's a standard tactic, he says, tossing it onto his desk. They're trying to pick off witnesses one by one, splinter the case. What do I do? You tell them no. So you do. Through Lowe, you send a one-sentence reply. The offer is declined. The response is not more money. It's pressure. A week later, a man in a neat suit finds you as you're leaving the worksite. He's not a lawyer. He has the air of a company man, an adjuster. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. Mr. Brennan, a word about that unfortunate offer. I think there's been a misunderstanding. We want to be fair, but these lawsuits, they create such a spectacle, dragging everything through the mud. Is that really what you want? For yourself? For your sister's reputation here? The threat is veiled but clear. Life could be made harder for you. You feel a cold ripple of fear, but beneath it, the anger is solid now, a core of iron. There's no misunderstanding. You say, meeting his gaze. You had your answer. His fake smile vanishes. He nods once, turns, and walks away. The confrontation leaves you shaken but clear. The battle lines are drawn. There will be no quiet retreat. You are in the fight whether you wanted it or not. And you realize with a strange calm that you are no longer fighting just for yourself. You are fighting for the principle that their negligence had a cost they cannot just sweep away with a check and a confidentiality clause. You are fighting for the dignity of the story, your story, and the story of the 700 others in third class. It's no longer about winning a fortune. It's about denying them the peace of forgetting. The day of the public hearing arrives with a cold, driving rain that turns Boston streets into rivers of gray. Feels fitting. Mr. Lowe meets you outside the federal building, a massive stone block that seems to frown down at the street. He's carrying a thick leather briefcase and his expression is all business, but he pauses before the wide steps. Remember, he says, his voice low under the drumming rain, you're not on trial. Look at the senators on the committee when you answer. Ignore the White Star lawyers. Speak clearly. And for God's sake, Cillian, just tell the truth. The simple truth is the most powerful thing in that room. You nod, your throat too tight to speak. The truth feels like a physical weight in your chest. Inside, the hallway is crowded, buzzing with noise and a tense energy. Reporters with notepads jostle for position. Men in fine suits converse in hushed, serious tones. You see clusters of people you recognize from the survivor lists. A woman you'd seen on the Carpathia, her face still etched with grief. A man walking with a limp from frostbite. You exchange grim, silent nods. You are a battalion of the broken, assembled for one last muster. Then you see the opposition. Mr. Wickerson is there, surrounded by associates, holding court. He catches your eye and gives a small, cold nod of acknowledgement. A rival general on the field of battle. You're led into the hearing chamber. It's grand and intimidating, all dark wood and high ceilings. A long bench sits elevated at the front for the members of the Senate subcommittee. Chairs and tables are arranged below for the lawyers. And then, there are the public galleries, already filling with spectators and journalists, their murmurs creating a low hum. You are shown to a small, isolated chair facing the committee bench. A Bible is presented. You place your hand on it, the leather cool and smooth. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Your voice doesn't waver. You take your seat. The room seems to focus, the air thickening. You can feel every eye on you. The committee chairman, a stern-looking man with spectacles, invites Mr. Lowe to begin. Lowe stands, approaches you not as a defender, but as a guide. Mr. Brennan, will you please tell the committee, in your own words, what happened to you on the night of April 14th, 1912? And so you begin. You start not with the iceberg, but with the party. You describe the music, the dancing, the feeling of community in the general room. You want them to understand what was lost, not just what was destroyed. You describe the shudder, the strange, wrong sound, the ice on the deck, the growing tilt. You speak slowly, clearly, just as Lowe advised. You keep your eyes on the senators. You tell them about the gates, the steward saying, "Wait here," the rising water you couldn't see but could feel in the angle of the world. You talk about searching for Daniel, about the crush on the stairs, about the moment you reached the boat deck and saw the bow submerged. The room is utterly silent. The only sounds are your voice and the soft scratch of a dozen pens. You describe the lifeboats, half empty, rowing away. You describe the band playing. You do not shy away from the fear, the confusion, the desperate unfairness of it. Then Lowe asks, "Mr. Brennan, in your opinion, based on what you saw and experienced, did the crew's actions and the ship's arrangements give third-class passengers a fair chance to reach the lifeboats?" You take a breath. This is the question the whole case hinges on. You look directly at the committee chairman. "No, sir, they did not. We were down below. The way was not clear. The orders were not clear. By the time we understood, it was too late for many. We were not given a fair chance." A ripple goes through the gallery. Lowe lets the answer hang for a moment before thanking you and sitting down. Then it is Wickerson's turn. He rises with a practiced ease. "Mr. Brennan, thank you for your vivid account." His tone is polite, almost collegial. He begins by taking you back over minor points, just as he did in the deposition, timelines, locations, exact wordings. He is trying to find a crack, to show inconsistency. But you are ready this time. You stick to the core memory. "I don't recall the exact minute, sir. I recall the ship was sinking. I cannot point to the gate on a map. I can tell you it was there, and it was closed to us." Frustration begins to flicker behind his cool eyes. He changes tack. "Isn't it true, Mr. Brennan, that in the panic and confusion of such an event, the mind can play tricks? That stories can become consolidated, embellished, even after talking with others and reading the sensational press? He is back to attacking your mind, your credibility. The old tactic. But here, in this public forum, it sounds different. It sounds callous. You look at him, then back to the senators. "My mind is not playing tricks about the water being knee-deep on the deck, sir. It's not playing tricks about the sound of people in the water going quiet. I remember that just fine." A stark, painful silence fills the chamber. Wickerson is momentarily thrown. He hadn't expected such a blunt, emotional counter. He presses on, but the wind is gone from his sails. He tries a few more technical questions, but his heart isn't in it. The room's sympathy, you can feel it, has tipped away from him. Finally, the committee chairman intervenes. I think we have a sufficient understanding of the witness's testimony. Thank you, Mr. Brennan. You are excused. As you stand, your legs feel weak. You walk past the table where Wickerson sits, already whispering angrily to an aide. You don't look at him. You walk up the aisle, through the heavy door, and back into the crowded hallway. The reaction is immediate. A reporter steps forward. Mr. Brennan, do you believe White Star is responsible? You keep walking, following Lowe's earlier instruction to say nothing. But you see it in the faces of the other survivors in the hall. A nod, a clenched fist of solidarity. You see it in the grim satisfaction on Mr. Lowe's face as he joins you, steering you away from the crowd. You didn't win today. There was no knockout blow. But you did something more important. You stood in the belly of the beast, in the full light of day, and you spoke your truth. And they could not break you. They could not make you seem small or confused or greedy. You spoke for Daniel, who couldn't, for Margaret, who couldn't, for the silent hundreds. Outside, the rain has slowed to a drizzle. The air smells clean, washed. You take a deep, shuddering breath. It's over. Your part is done. You were magnificent, Lowe says quietly. You were honest. And they have nothing to answer honesty with but legal tricks. The committee saw that. You don't feel magnificent. You feel emptied out, purged. But for the first time since you crawled onto that piece of wreckage, you also feel a quiet, unshakable sense of peace. You have done what you came to do. You have borne witness. The hearing doesn't end the story, but it closes a chapter. A heavy, iron door swings shut in your mind. You have said what you needed to say in the most powerful forum you could ever have imagined. No lawyer's trick, no settlement check can ever take that away. The legal machinery grinds on without you. Months later, a settlement is finally reached. A collective one for all the plaintiffs. The amount, when divided, is modest. You receive a sum that is neither life-changing nor an insult. It is an acknowledgement, finally, in hard currency, that something wrong was done. You use part of it to pay Mary back for every penny she spent on your food, your attic room, her worry. You put the rest in a savings account at a Boston bank. It's not a fortune. It's a foundation. You keep working on the construction site, but something has shifted. The foreman, who once saw you as a charity case or a nuisance, now treats you with a gruff respect. The story of your testimony got around. You're not just the Titanic guy anymore. You're the guy who stood up in front of the senators and the suits and didn't back down. In the world of South Boston, where pride is often the only currency, that counts for something. You move out of Mary's attic. You rent a small room of your own in a boarding house not far from the site. It's yours. The first thing you buy with your own wages after the rent is a small framed photograph of your family from home. You place it on the crude shelf by your bed. You look at your parents' faces every morning. You haven't forgotten where you came from. Life becomes ordinary, astonishingly, blessedly ordinary. You work, you eat, you save. You go to Mass with Mary on Sundays. You write letters home to Ireland, sending a few dollars whenever you can. You receive letters from Podrick in New York. He's steady on the docks, talking about a girl he's met. The world, which had shattered into a million screaming pieces, slowly, painfully, knits itself back together into a new pattern. The seams show, and they always will, but it holds. You never find out what happened to Margaret and the children. Their names never appear on any definitive list. You choose to believe in your heart that they made it to a boat. that William and Mary grew up in Chicago. It's a story you tell yourself, not for truth, but for peace. Years pass. The Great War comes and goes, a new kind of distant horror. You are not drafted, your work is considered essential. You move from laborer to foreman on the crew. You learn to read blueprints to manage men. The calluses on your hands are permanent now, a map of your survival. One spring day, nearly a decade after the hearing, you are walking through the public garden. The sun is warm, the first green is on the trees. You pass a newsstand. A headline on the Boston Post catches your eye, not for its size, but for a single word, Titanic. You stop. Your heart, for a second, is a block of ice in your chest. You buy the paper. It's not an anniversary. It's a business brief. The White Star Line, struggling after the war, has been absorbed by its old rival, Cunard. The article is a dry recap of corporate history. It mentions the disaster in a single, clinical paragraph. Following the tragic loss of the RMS Titanic in 1912. That's all. A footnote. A corporate transaction. You stand there on the sunny path, the paper in your hands. You feel a sudden, unexpected wave of emotion. Not grief, not anger, but something like release. The giant, the monster, the invincible entity you stood against in that hearing room. It's gone. Dissolved into another company's ledgers. They did not get away clean. They paid. They faded. You endured. You are still here. You fold the paper and toss it into a trash bin. You keep walking. That night, you take out a piece of stationery you bought for special occasions. You write a letter, not to Ireland, not to Podrick. You address it to Mr. Arthur Lowe Esq. At his old office. You doubt he's still there, but you send it anyway. The letter is short. Dear Mr. Lowe, I saw in the paper today that White Star is finished. I thought you should know. I am well. I am still working. I never thanked you properly for believing me. Thank you. Yours sincerely, Cillian Brennan. You post it the next day, not expecting a reply. A week later, a letter comes back. It's from Lowe. His handwriting is energetic, just like he was. Dear Cillian, I did get your letter. They forwarded it to my new office. The news is indeed fitting. I often think of that hearing. You were the best witness I ever had, because you were the truest. The law is a blunt instrument, but truth is a sharp one. You wielded it well. I am glad to hear you are well. That is the only verdict that ever really matters. Sincerely, Arthur Lowe. You read it twice, then carefully place it in the small tin box where you keep your important papers, next to your stamped inspection card from Queenstown. 2 pieces of paper from 2 different worlds, both proof that you existed, that you were there, that you mattered. More years turn. You save enough money to buy a share in a small contracting business with 2 other men from the old crew. You are a partner. You wear a suit sometimes when you meet with clients. It feels strange on your shoulders, but not wrong. You never marry. You have friends, you have your sister's family, you have the respect of your community. Your life is full enough. The memories of the cold and the dark are like old wounds that ache when the weather changes, but they are no longer open sores. They are part of the landscape of you. One evening, many years later, you are visiting Mary. Her children are grown. Her sitting room is warm, lit by a soft lamp. A grandchild is playing on the rug with wooden blocks. You are telling him a silly story, making him laugh. On the mantel, the radio is playing softly. The program ends, and an announcer's smooth voice comes on. And now, for our late-night listeners, a moment of quiet reflection. Here is Wallace Hartley's orchestra, with Nearer, My God, to Thee. The familiar, mournful melody fills the quiet room. Mary's eyes fly to yours, wide with concern. The child keeps playing, oblivious. You listen, You let the music wash over you. For the first time, you don't hear the screams underneath it. You don't feel the cold. You just hear the song. A sad, beautiful song from a long time ago. You look at Mary and give her a small, quiet smile. It's okay. The song plays on. Outside the window, the lights of Boston twinkle in the safe, solid dark. You are here. You are home. The music fades. The announcer whispers a good night. The story is over. The telling is done. You survived. That's the end of Cillian Brennan's story, and the end of our journey together. But the story of the Titanic, and the hundreds of untold stories like his, goes on whenever we remember. If this long video has meant something to you, if it's kept you company late at night, please hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to make sure you're here for the next deep dive into history. And I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me what part of this long journey stayed with you the most. Until next time, friends, thanks for listening.